First up, we have Rising Tides, 256 West Berlin Road.
Yes.
Oh, and I have to read the...
Wait, we also do the
Janet Pesatoro.
Jim Stone.
Brian Barabee.
Maria Browning, Carol Gunbar. No, I just, yeah.
So the Bolton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act and Riverfront Act, and under the Bolton Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 233, on Tuesday, July 15, 2014, at 7 p.m. in the Town Hall, 633 Main Street, Bolton, Mass. To consider a notice of intent filed by Rising Tides LLC, the McLaughlin Brothers, PC, proposing to construct a new single-family dwelling with associated sewage disposal system and well at 256 West Berlin Road. Assessors map 2.B, parcel 1.C.
Thank you. My name is Richard American from American Engineering in Millis. And this application is, it's actually the parcel adjacent to 256 because this used to be, it was always two parcels, but it was owned by the same people. They recently sold the existing house, which is 256. This doesn't have an address, but it's lot 3. It's been created through the planning board. So it's a 5.5 acre piece. It's got frontage on West Berlin Road, and there's a significant amount of wetlands on it. You can see here, I've colored in the wetlands. This is a big hill going down here. It's a little deceiving, but I bet it goes down 80 feet from here to here. So that is, I think, part of the reason why, you see this is not quite a stream, and then there's a flat spot here, some poor soil, so that, and then the water kind of heads over this way, and then it heads down this way, but there's no wetland there because it's steeper. So we have BVW up here, and then down at the bottom we have some BVW and a stream which goes through here. It starts at a farm pond on the shot in the farm over here, and it heads off in this direction. Now this shows up on the USGS as a perennial stream, but the watershed is teeny, 0.14 acres, and it doesn't have the appropriate flow under the stream stats, which I gave you in the notice. And we did find it dry, took some pictures. So interestingly enough, when we first started this, it was 2011, I think, and it was dry all summer, so I didn't even think about it. And then we had a couple of years of fairly wet, so it ran, but it dried up in 2013 at the end.
Dried up when?
In
2013? Okay.
2013. So the buildable areas on this particular piece of property are twofold. One up at the street, and then there's a high point here which you could build on as well. And when we created the lot, we left an easement for a driveway should somebody end up building there. But you would have to cross wetlands. So the owner is willing to keep all of the development up at the street. So most of it is outside of the 100-foot buffer. We have the house, and we did perk tests here, and we have a septic system designed. And since it's a fairly large lot, and we're restricting ourselves to the front, we are requesting that we be allowed to use 25 feet of the buffer, the outer 25, for the yard area. So we would put this is a straw water line, but if you wanted, we could do some permanent delineation there to make sure that the lawn doesn't creep back. And so that's essentially it. It slopes from the street back. It's not super sloped, but it's sloped. And because if you were to go out there and look, it drops off from the street 2 or 3 feet and then slopes back, and we'll be filling this for the septic, so we have like a walkout in the back on the house to try to work in with the contours. So that's essentially it. You know, we'd be here to verify the BBW and the stream situation, and then a look.
So the only thing within any resource area would be the lawn?
The lawn, yes, the backyard. Yes. And you know, it gives it, on average, about 50 feet in the back. I mean, we could have held to the 100, but it makes a very small yard, and somebody might be encouraged to move it back. If you give them a reasonable yard, I think, you know, it's a little more over here, it's a little less over here, but I think the average is about 50, so it would just be grass.
So I guess we need to go look at the wetland delineation, right?
Sure.
Where do you want to have them stake out?
I guess the
house?
100-foot line and the house, right?
Okay, yeah.
What kind of vegetation is there from the edge going down? Is it wooded? Is it straightforward? Is it?
It's straightforward, it's wooded. The whole parcel is wooded.
Is wooded?
Yeah.
And something you may consider is, if you are putting the lawn in there, is some way of keeping the homeowner from going any further.
Well, that's why I said, we don't have a problem doing boulders or, I don't know, do you do plaques? Some of the towns do plaques, sometimes a fence, yeah.
Sometimes we do restrictions, deed restrictions, or
Yeah,
conservation
but-
restrictions.
She's talking about something physical, which I can
Yeah.
appreciate. Yeah, we have no problem with that.
Boulders are the most persistent and the hardest to ignore.
Yes, right, and easiest for you guys to see if you happen to look up.
Yeah, so long as they're sizable.
Yeah, well, I suspect there'll be, you know, it's a rocky place, so I think they'll probably have some boulders to deal with, yeah.
So is that a stone wall there? Is that what I'm looking at?
No, this
What is
is the erosion control.
Oh.
Yeah. No, there's no stone walls up.
So you want them to stake out the 100-foot buffer zone, you said, or aura,
Yeah.
and
And
the limit of work,
Well,
or the house, rather?
yeah, we can, I mean, I can stake the 75, which is the limit of work if you want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. All of the septic and the well would be out of the buffer zone. The well's gonna be here, septic up here.
Oh, I thought that you just said the well was out of the buffer. That was
Out of the
in.
buffer,
Oh,
that's what I
that well
said.
is,
It's out of the buffer.
It is,
It's
okay.
right at the 100, yeah.
Oh, it's right at the 100,
Yeah,
okay.
right, yeah.
How much front yard is that, like in square footage roughly?
It's about 50 feet. There's just enough room. Those are all minimum requirements, 10 from the street, septic system, 25 to the house.
And they have some yard on the left side there?
Yeah, this, between here and here, the driveway used to come in like this. So they took it out and they grassed it, so this is kind of grass in here, yeah.
Okay. So maybe they don't need that whole area for lawn in the back. Maybe there could be some sort of naturalistic native plantings that are nice to look at, but not just all lawn.
Yeah, I didn't, you know, we could do that.
What's the closest approach of the 100-foot or to the house? What's the,
Oh, the closest distance? Yeah. So, right here, it would be about 8 feet off the driveway. That'd be the closest point. And I put a little wall there because the driveway is going to be up, so there'd be a retaining wall here, so that we can leave the 100-foot at natural grade at least, even if we do disturb it.
What do you think about like snow plowing, maybe going right to the back then? Everything right?
We could have them snowplow this way. We could put something here, be a wall or, a shop wall or something that would encourage them to swoop it out to the side. This house is gonna be sold. The owner now is not gonna build a house. He's gonna be selling it. So we're getting the permit.
How big is the house?
It's-
Footprint, I guess.
It's 60 by 35. It's not a huge house, 4 bedrooms. It's probably 3,000 square feet. We didn't, we're just trying to get something reasonable on there to sell, not a monster or anything. This house next door, if you're not familiar with it, it's in Gambrell. It's an older Gambrell, they renovated it.
Does anybody have any other comments or questions?
Not until you look at it, we just take a
Do we
look
have
at it.
any abutters? Anyone else from the neighborhood?
I'll come down with it.
There's not many.
Yeah, it's mostly the farm and
Mostly the
neighbor.
farm, yeah, and I've talked to him a number of times, yeah.
I guess we'll just take a look at it.
Yeah, so your next meeting's August 19th, so you have plenty of time in between. If you want to come up with a date.
I think we can do it this Sunday.
I can't this Sunday, but like next Sunday I'm fine.
Okay.
Weeknights, next week's bad for me, but
Actually, the following Sunday I'm gonna be away. Saturdays aren't good for me.
I can do Saturdays.
Depends on the time.
What time can?
I could do like 8:30, early,
Okay.
the afternoon.
Right, I don't want to do the afternoon. Can you do the morning?
Sure.
8:30. Brian, Saturday morning?
this Saturday, 8:30. I actually can do this Sunday, which I hate to say now. I can't do the Sunday after, sorry.
Oh, can you guys do the Sundays? 8:30?
8:30.
Now, do you want me to be there, or
Who delineated the wetland?
Russ Wallner?
So usually they want, whoever did the wetland
Russ.
delineation in case there's questions about
Yeah,
that.
I can have Russ come,
It's
yeah.
the 20th.
And so long as everything's staked.
Yeah.
He'll have the plans too.
I can make sure he has the plans,
Yeah,
yeah.
someone should, because we have the 2 sets in the office. Depending on if I gave it to Janet, she wasn't able to go.
Sure, right, yeah, yeah, I can make sure, yeah. So that's Sunday? What time?
8:30? AM.
What's the date of Sunday? Is it? Oh,
20th?
These days by 8:30 p.m. it's dark.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Okay, and then, so you want to have him continue?
Yes, until our next one, August 19th.
So, let's see, we do have a couple of new applications coming in, but I haven't assigned them times yet, so. You can continue this as the first one again, or? Let me just give you a form to continue that.
Okay.
Might get a little more clearance.
Which one?
The front line was too close to the,
Does it?
I think it would.
To the,
This is the minimum distance, so the only thing I can do is turn it down. But I can do it if you want. I don't have a problem.
just trying to look at it as a geometry problem.
Sure, yeah, right.
Okay, so if you can just, maybe we continue the hearing.
Okay, thank you.
So, what's the person's name we're gonna meet? Russ?
Russ Waldron. AES Environmental.
KES?
AES, yep. He did the report.
Yep.
Okay, next up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
DPW Long Hill Road, Meadow Road. Bolton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, Protection of the Riverfront Law, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, on Tuesday, July 15, 2014, at 7:15 p.m. We're almost on time. And in the Town Hall at 663 Main Street, to consider a notice of intent filed by the Town of Bolton DPW proposing to improve culverts at the intersection of Long Hill Road and Meadow Road and across Meadow Road. Assessors map 4D between parcel 36 and parcel 60, 37.1 and 99. I don't really know what I'm reading there.
But they're different parcel numbers.
Okay.
All right, Long Hill first, right? Yeah, so this is the wrong plan. Okay, let's get things straight.
Actually, could you just introduce yourself? We have a new person
I certainly
here.
will.
I'd like to have her be able to
Sure.
follow.
Greg Roy with Ducharme Dillis. Thank you very much for your time this evening, and as you mentioned, I'm here representing the town, the DPW, for the Long Hill Road, Meadow Road intersection area. I have a bunch of plans that are associated with this. This is a cover sheet that I'm not talking off of, but I will start with this one, which is the existing conditions plan, just so I can explain sort of a baseline of what's going on out there. This picture communicates the whole project, the whole limits of the work area. You have Long Hill Road here, 117 is over here, and then Meadow Road here. Meadow Road comes back down to 117 here. The stream comes right down through a wetland system, which is hatched, and it comes through two existing stone culverts that run on a pretty significant skew, and then they discharge into a pond area, which is a rather kind of elongated pond with a wetland that's almost coincident with the edge of the pond. Flows down along adjacent to the Meadow Road, to Meadow Road, and then flows through an existing 12-inch pipe that was recently updated by the DPW. I'm not sure of the date, but it's.
Was it real
well,
recent or like
I don't think really
many
recent,
years ago?
but
Because I thought there's been complaints
but
about
it's-
drainage over there.
there is, and that's why we're here today. This pipe,
But if that
I
was
would
the case,
say-
it was like 15 years ago.
yeah, it's a plastic pipe.
Okay.
All I'm saying, it's a plastic pipe. It's not a stone culvert like these ones, so it's not like it was
Okay.
put in by the farmers that used to farm this. It was installed. So maybe recently was not the correct word, but it was installed. It was installed
That's
by.
on a scale.
It's not prehistoric.
Right, it's not prehistoric. The current deficiencies include the following. One of these culverts, I believe it is the one closest to 117, if you will, or the northernmost culvert, is almost totally plugged, such that it's not really functioning. There's also, it doesn't show up on this plan, there's a dog leg in this pipe. So it comes in and actually takes a bend under the pavement somewhere, and you cannot see through that culvert. It's just very poorly degraded. This one also has some structural issues in the downstream head wall is starting to show signs of collapse. So that, you know, up between the head wall and the pavement, you can see there's some areas where it's starting to settle and things. So this is not taking the, not providing the capacity that it once did. So that's issue number one. Issue number two is this one also does not have the capacity, and that was, I personally witnessed that last year during, I believe it was the month of June, July, early July. We had a lot of rain, if you remember back then, and we went out there to take a look at it. And what happens is, this gets overloaded and it flows down this way, off the page, and then flows across, and there's some property on the other side that gets where there's causes a problem on the downstream side. There's that new house that was built over there. So this is also an obstruction in the channel. So what we are proposing to do is replace both of these so that we can solve the issue from both, on both locations, and restore the open area back to what it would be for these two operating. And then we'll do the same cross section down here so that what comes in here can handle what comes in there. So it's a pretty simple hydraulic equation.
So can you say again, I'm sorry, the pipes that you're replacing those two pipes?
Yeah.
And now they're what size?
The existing stone culverts are, this is the downstream one is a 12-inch, and the two upstream are, one of them is a 30-inch CMP. It's a little bit jerry-rigged. I think there's a 30-inch CMP that's connected to an old stone culvert under there, so it's a little bit difficult to figure out even what this one is. But there's a 30-inch coming out and a 2x2 stone culvert in there.
Now, if the downstream one is being flooded now, with the upstream one largely blocked, then it's going to get even more flow.
Right, which is why we're significantly upsizing.
And of course, the next question is, what happens downstream of that one?
Well, before you answer that, can you just, that's it. So what are you replacing the 2x2 stone culvert with and the 30-inch?
Well, that's where I'm going.
Oh, okay, I thought you'd already said it. Maybe I didn't.
So,
okay.
the proposal is to replace these pipes with what's the equivalent of a 66-inch diameter CMP that's slightly egg-shaped, so that we're putting an open area in that's roughly around 12 square feet.
So one pipe.
One pipe, yeah. So what's going to happen is, and then we'll have we're going to do a naturalized bottom on the bottom. We're going to bury the bottom because the pipes that we're using are oversized for what we need. So we're going to which allows us to put a natural bottom in. So in the case of the Long Hill Road crossing, there's a natural place to replace this. The existing culverts, which are frozen on this plan, they come in right in here, right across there. So they're like this. And then the other one is something like this. So the stream takes a pretty good jog through this wetland system and then enters into the pond here. So there's a good opportunity to realign this, which will help us with, scour concerns as we're entering culvert entrances and exits. And also from a constructability standpoint, we can maintain flow through this culvert now and install this pipe quite a bit easier than installing it in the same place. And it just makes sense. The geometry makes quite a bit more sense. So that's what we're proposing to do in the upstream case. So
is it desirable to have an oversized pipe with a natural bottom over the size pipe you would need?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because we're trying to. This is an existing culvert that we're replacing. So stream crossing standards are sort of. You try to do the maximum extent feasible in that case, and so we look to do naturalized bottoms wherever we can. So like, so we've done, a lot of the culverts, we do them where we can.
But what would the stream stats require? Would it be even bigger?
Stream crossing stands?
Sorry, stream crossing stands.
I would expect so, yeah. I mean, they're pretty, I mean,
But so to meet it to
require-
the maximum extent feasible, I'm not quite sure then how much you've met it, I guess
Well,
is the question.
this hits on, we can't just open this thing up, because then you really do cause flooding concerns downstream. In all these culvert replacements, we're matching what the functionality of the existing culverts are. We can't just go open them up, because then you really do pass more flow. That is a hydraulic problem, you're passing the problem downstream. So we're really, we are limited to what we can do from that standpoint.
You're trying to make the flow of it.
We in all these
Keep it-
situations,
keep it
we are
feet
trying,
per
yeah,
minute.
we're trying to match when these two culverts were functioning, we're trying to match what that was, upstream and downstream. So you can't downsize it, you can't upsize it, you gotta find that sweet spot, which is why we're proposing what we are.
And so can you talk about the resource area impact then?
Yeah, so,
Because you're changing the location of the pipes within the BBW, is that?
well, where they, yeah, I mean, the pipes exit right here, so at the edge of the wetland. So what'll happen now is you'll have, I mean, this will stay wetland, the channel will just be reverted to, through this pipe here. So,
Well, I guess that's my concern. The channel's going to be relocated, but it will stay wet?
yeah, I believe so, just based on the grades, yeah. I mean, it's pretty low in here. This is gonna be old stream channel. It's just, it'll, when you have rainfall events, you're gonna have a elevated stream and it'll flood that area. And it'll go down just like it does now.
And is all the riprap, is any of that within BBW or back?
Some of it. There's a small section, which I think was captured in our calcs, right in here that we're proposing. And, right in here.
So and
it's
was
in
the
this area.
replication then?
So what we're proposing, so we're dropping the grades over in this area to mitigate for that. So we whereas here we're losing, I don't even know what the square footage is, I'd have to check the application, but it's probably in the order of 20 to 30 square feet.
Pretty small.
Half the size of this room. And then we're dropping the grades, in this area here, so that, we're creating more area than we're losing.
Can I
As I-
interrupt you again? I know, I
Sure,
mean, we're
that's
not letting you get through the proposal. Is creating more area in part for flood storage or to slow
No, it's just,
down, or-
it's really just to physically get it to work. We got some, we have to make sure we set this thing with the right cover. So when we just make sure, I'm pretty good at reading upside down. This is the upstream side here, we're obviously matching that. And then when you come to the downstream side, the existing grade is right here, so this is what, we're dropping that grade down. So it's sort of, when we have to have it there, for a number of reasons. One is we gotta get the pipe slope right, and we have to match the uphill side, that's most important. And then, and the pond is quite a bit lower in elevation. And we have to have the culvert over the pipe. I mean, the cover over the pipe culvert. So there's a couple of factors that drive that elevation change on the downhill side. But it also provides the ability to get some, that mitigation area.
So, without pulling out the application again, is there any bordering line subject flooding alteration?
Check.
You be dredging the pond at all?
We're not planning to, no. I don't think this had any, no, that's right. Yeah, it's not in floodplain, Carol. It's above the, that portion of the stream is above the, outside the limits, or upstream of the floodplain. There's a 100-year floodplain associated with Great Brook, downstream. So the stream channel's right here. This is the first crossing, and it goes into the pond and it crosses here. Here's the channel, and then it comes in to right up down here. So the nearest 100-year floodplain is associated with a pond across the street, and then down in the almost in the woods line. So there isn't any flooding, land subject to flooding that would be impacted. And then the downstream side is similar, same cross-section. The geometry is a little bit more challenging. We'd love to correct the geometry like we're doing here, because you definitely, the flow has to come take a bend. But we just can't. There's not enough, you can only skew this thing so much. So what we're proposing to do is use armor that bank, so that when the flow comes down and in the high velocity scour areas, it'll your velocities on the outer edge of the bank, we'll be protecting that bank.
So it's like
As
a
it
banking the highway.
Yeah, or if you've ever driven on, this is much lesser extent, but if you've ever driven on Route 70 coming down where the Nashua River is before you're coming south, that United States Army Corps of Engineers solution for that bend, that's where your velocity is on the outer bend. That's why that's done. This will be a much lesser extent than that. Maybe that was a bad example, but
What size is the riprap? Maybe that'll help.
Because
that's like what,
I think we're doing 4 to 8 here, I think.
Okay.
So we're doing smaller. Here we'll be impacting resource area again, and we're proposing to replicate that downstream of this area, right in this location there.
What land is this?
It's owned by the town, believe it or not. The right-of-way is up here. It's a lot of right-of-way in that area. The stone wall is the right-of-way line. So we have a little bit more flexibility down in this area to work.
But isn't that already wetland down there?
It ends here. Our Brandon's delineation shows it up in there like that. So, and then on the downstream side, a similar treatment. There's some existing riprap that comes in here where there's some drainage, localized drainage that comes in there. And then this is the existing stream that goes down. And to answer your question, we have taken a look at the hydraulics in the downstream channel. This is a pretty significant channel that can handle. It's just it doesn't get there. It just it just hops over and then it hops across.
It's a very big wetland system through there too.
Yeah. So and it really doesn't have to It doesn't have to go far until it gets to
The channel that runs right through the greenhouse, right?
Right. Yeah. And it's not far until it dumps in a Great Brook, and then and it gets there now. It just under high flow, it just doesn't do what it's supposed to do.
So I can say, did you do a wetland replication plan then in this?
I don't think we did. Which we can certainly provide for you. I was looking at that this afternoon as I was preparing for the hearing, and I realized we didn't. So, I can certainly provide that for you.
Maybe you can look at what's kind of happening out there too while you're there, so you have a sense of what you want or what you find acceptable. Or maybe before they do the pre-construction, maybe you can even propose something so that they can think about it when they're there. Or not sorry.
The replication,
The site visit, if you're going to do a site
Certainly.
visit, do
Yeah,
you
I'll
want to
certainly.
have the replication or do you want to look at it after?
The more we have before, the
Yeah,
better.
yeah.
If it's possible.
We did a pretty significant sequencing plan as well on this, to try and communicate how it'll be constructed. It's 2 separate projects, so you can treat them separately. You probably do the downstream one first, but we just have it. So, you're right.
Well,
Downstream.
yeah, shouldn't we say that that's going to be the way it is, right? Won't there be impacted? If it already can't handle it, you open that up?
Well, right. I would think that that's what they would do.
Yeah, you can say that. But,
I'm not the contractor, I don't know what he'll do. I don't think this is a bid job, I think they're planning on doing this in-house, but I'm not sure on that. So like I was saying, this would be a process of sandbagging off the area where the new culvert would go, excavating out the material, putting the new culvert in, and then sandbagging off this area temporarily while we actually would fill these with flowable fill material so that after this one's functioning to, keep any more voids from happening in the road, and that's why we're trying to fix it.
The sandbag area is areas that's going to be replaced with riprap anyway.
Not in the case of, no, actually.
Just from the actual ice.
Yeah, you just put them in there temporarily and then take them out. And if it needed to be revegetated, we could do that.
Does your sequence talk about low flow?
Usually does. I don't know if we got that specific here, Carol, to be quite honest with you, but we can. But certainly we more just talked, in this case, we more just did a graphical, here's stage one, and there's a whole bunch of different sub-stages here.
And where do you put the stuff that you excavate out?
Well, the road would be closed here, presumably, so they'd probably be yarding it. And if there's unsuitable material, they'd be trucking that out. I think that's the nuts and bolts of it. I know with this one you'll be very interested to put boots on the ground there and see what it looks like, so we're happy to go out there and take you for a tour, show you.
Okay. Should we try to fit this one in on Sunday? People have time?
Sure.
9 o'clock Sunday morning?
Trying to figure out how far away West Berlin Road is.
Yeah, it's 10 minutes, not even, it's probably not really, it's probably 10 minutes, but
How much time at West Berlin? I want to say 9:15.
Yeah.
So 9:15.
Yeah, if possible.
Yep. This coming Sunday?
Yeah.
Okay.
When it rains like it did today, we can get a real good idea of the stormwater pattern.
2 inches on Still River Road.
Really?
Rain gauge there, but then you go over across 195 into Stowe, Carol, and .15.
yeah.
Oh, they didn't get it?
Very localized, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I know, because when I came back tonight, I didn't know if there was any hail that had come through, because it was so...
I didn't see any. It looked like the brunt of it was just a little bit west of our office, but we had some rain like you read about. I mean, it was just ridiculous.
So what's that 30-inch blocked with? Just looking at this. I mean, is it just debris that's blocked?
It's just collapsed over time. It's like all
So it's more collapsed than it...
Yeah, well, we think so. We can't really see.
I don't know.
It's kind of caving in like in here. So I think it's probably a combination of stones falling in and debris coming down, getting caught, and then, it just, over time, just degrades.
Is the road itself falling into it?
Not the road, but it's right on the, it's right in here, it's right on the shoulder. So, replication plan, and then, you said that the sidewalk is 9:15 on Sunday.
So when do you want to continue the hearing?
Maybe the next time we have a meeting.
So we meet August 19th and do it what did we do just then? That was, I think it needs 15 minutes is enough for that first one.
Should we go to 7:30? Unless,
Well, you can always start it late, you can always start early. You can always start it later if it's, let's see, wait.
We
If you
never
say, if you
finished
post it for 7:15,
in the 2 years I've been here, we haven't finished.
Yeah, I know, so it's up to you, but then if you're done, then you have to wait or fill it in with something, which is fine. Was it 7:30?
7:30.
I've got minus 14 minutes on the next one.
Yeah.
See if I can do that. So did you say,
So,
did you say 7:30?
That's,
Do you want to say any comments?
Any comments on this, questions, comments? Okay, so should we move right into the next one?
Sure.
So,
Madam Chair, I'm right across the street from this one, I wondered if I could get close enough to see it.
Oh, sure.
okay, so the Milton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act and Riverfront Act, and under the Bolton Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 233, on Tuesday, July 15, 2014, at 7:30 p.m. in the Town Hall, to consider a notice of intent filed by the Town of Bolton DPW proposing to repair an existing culvert at the intersection of Randall Road and Jordan Road. Assessors map 3C and 3B, parcels 7, 9, and 66.
Correct. Again, for the record, my name is Greg Roy, Duchamp Medillis. This one is, again, a culvert, as you mentioned, a culvert upgrade, I guess we'll call it, a repair. The existing culvert in this case is an existing 42-inch corrugated metal pipe, which is those, silver round corrugated pipes that you see, which have a, life expectancy to them, and they fail rather dramatically. So Harold's kind of embarking on a program to get ahead of that curve. So this is Berlin Road, shown in the red and white, and then Randall Road comes over. Jordan Road is the road that cuts across between the two. The land downstream is conservation land. So the stream flow on this is north to south. This property is within habitat area. We filed with them concurrently. We filed a notice with we filed a notice of intent and supporting material with them and received a no-take letter last week.
Okay, so by that you mean priority habitat as designated by the
Yep.
NHGSP, which is
Correct.
the National Heritage and Endangered Species Program.
Sorry.
So meaning that there's probably endangered species there, or
Yeah,
listed
they,
state listed species?
I don't know that they even told me what it was, to be quite honest with you.
Not in the letter.
They didn't in the letter, yeah. So, but the letter issued a no-take statement in the letter. So that was good to get that out of the way. Sorry about that. So we've done this on several occasions with great success. The technology we're proposing here is a slip lining. This is unlike the other one that we just discussed. This one's a straight bore pipe. It can easily be slip lined with a new plastic, smooth lined plastic pipe. The hydraulic calculations work out that with the difference in roughness coefficient that you have with these pipes, so the corrugated metal has a roughness to it, the corrugation's on it, and the fact that it's degraded over time and it's rusty and it's got all kinds of debris in it. When you look at the hydraulic characteristics of that pipe, that 42-inch pipe, and compare it to a smooth lined, slip lined culvert, plastic culvert, 36-inch culvert that can be slid in there, the hydraulic characteristics are the same. So just like the other one, we're preserving the upstream and downstream flow characteristics while replacing the pipe without having to do an intrusive road closure program here. Harold's done this pretty successfully on both the Sugar Road culverts, and I can't think of the other.
There was another one.
Can't think of it. But anyway, at least twice. Sugar Road,
Sugar
two
Road was
Sugar Road
definitely- yeah,
culverts.
maybe that's
Well,
the
three
one.
Sugar Road culverts, but one
There was one
near,
before that too, huh?
one near Houghton Farm, the two near
Yeah.
Houghton Farm, and then the one up the street.
Yeah.
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 On cross-section, it's slip-like like that? Is that what I'm looking at?
So what the challenge you're running into with these cross sections, engineer's tricky because we do a skewed, with the, it's not
It's
a,
not
yeah, it's 10 feet vertical and 2 feet horizontal. So you end up, a circular pipe looks like an ellipse. So So
You're
yeah,
looking
it's a
at it
circular
in-
pipe, but you're looking at it, you're looking at it in a skewed, and that's a pretty standard way of drawing it, because if you drew it one-to-one, this would be too big to fit on the page, so. So yeah, you have a slightly smaller pipe that's slipped in there. What happens after you do that is you bulkhead off the void space on the ends, and you pump it full of, you fill the interstitial space with a grout, a flowable fill solution that solidifies the interstitial space, and you get a finished product that's very durable. You didn't rip up the road to do it, and you get good design life out of it again.
It's like putting a cylinder line in.
Yeah,
The cylinder.
yeah.
Will the bottom be naturalized?
On this case, it will not be. On these slip line colors, we cannot do a naturalized bottom. And the reason for that is just because, unlike the other one, where we're taking a small pipe and putting a bigger pipe in, so we have more area that we can fill. This one, we're actually putting a smaller pipe in. The hydraulic characteristics are the same, but it needs to flow to have that happen. We do not have to, unlike some of these culverts around town, the head walls are degrading. In this case, these head walls are in pretty good shape, so we're not proposing to do any work with the head walls. The only thing we're proposing to do is on the downstream side. This will come in big pieces. Actually, I think in this case it's one piece of pipe. So that's going to have to be unloaded, put in, set downstream, and then slid in.
So you're gonna do it from the downstream?
We're going to do it from the downstream because there's a pretty significant channelized section. You can kind of see the way that's aiming. And these are stone. It's been built up with stone on the sides of the channels, so there's no real way to get it you can't get it low enough to get it into the culvert on the uphill side. So you have that space on the downstream side. There is some vegetation in here that would have to be selectively trimmed to get that to work. And then we've called that out in that dashed area there. There's nothing significant there. I don't anticipate any tree removal. I just think it's pruning.
The conservation area sign isn't in the way over there, is it?
The Conservation Commission area sign, I think, is right on the intersection of Randall and Jordan, right over there. I'm pretty sure. Is that right? Yeah. So this one is in a lot of ways pretty straightforward. We're not proposing any really any earthwork of any kind. The only activities that really have the potential to impact are the trimming that we're proposing and the grouting. But
There's no overhanging trees or roots or anything on the other side of the road on the upstream side?
On this side, I don't know, but I don't think they cause any problems. It's pretty.
I just know on Sugar Road we had that issue a little bit. Not with the first one back out in.
Oh yeah, with the dead tree that was sort of in there that had the. Yeah, I don't think we have that issue here.
There are quite a few trees on the north side of it, I think, but almost none on the south side.
Correct. There are some bigger trees over here, but I don't think those are going to cause us any problems. So,
So was any wetland flagged out over there?
we did, yep. We have an A series on the north and a B series on the south. We're proposing to, those pipes, they end up sticking out a little bit out of the head walls, but we're not proposing to fill or alter.
Do you have riprap at the end?
Nope, we're not proposing any riprap, just a slip line. This one's pretty, as far as they come, they're pretty, it's pretty
Just the pipe.
straightforward. Yeah, just the pipe. Yeah. So I hate to do this to you. I don't do this often, but I know that Harold is really hopeful to get this one done this summer. And that presents some logistical issues, I think, with your schedule. He has to wait to get your order, obviously, and then has to presumably wait for his appeal period and all that. So, I mean, I'm not sure if the commission feels the same way I do, but it's a fairly straightforward project, and I think in this case, we'd appreciate it if you if you saw it that way, and if
So
there's any way.
you're just popping a stent in there, right?
Yeah, we're just slip lining it.
It's probably, I can't imagine there's a lesser intrusive way to do that. It's going to need to happen eventually.
And it's not new, we've done it on other projects with success, so we're using the same slip lining company that they did before, Artie Prescott.
I know one of the meetings we talked about this as being more of a streamlined process, you know, and that
Right.
we, you know,
Actually, I
thought
was-
that we would treat it that way.
I was thinking
I
of
did
doing
not
this.
prepare an order of conditions for tonight because I
Yeah.
didn't know that that was going to be the proposal. I figured you were going to take a look at the site, but I didn't. I mean, at this point, we'd be talking about preparing an order of conditions probably after 10 o'clock tonight because of the way all the hearings that we have going, so I don't know if you want to come back to it and see where you are,
Would
or...
it be something that we could stop in during the week and sign off on if we put together an order?
You'd have to vote on it all tonight. You can tell me what you want for conditions.
We've voted before on, as long as the conditions met. You know, I mean, I can't make any site visits, but if, you know, they riding by there Sunday to look at it and don't have any issues, we issue an order as long as there's no outstanding.
Yeah, I think the thing for me would be, you know, that I want to see the conservation area restored, you know, to whatever it is, and I don't know what the status of it is. I think, you know, that's our land to preserve and protect, so I just would want to make sure that we had taken a look at that part. Whether you want to do it individually or do it and get it into an order, that's the only thing I would just want to, I mean, that we have orders that we've issued similar, you know, so I can certainly pull out those and draft it similar to that, but not really knowing what the vegetation is on either side, I guess I would be a little bit interested on our side particularly. I mean, I know the other side's cool. Yeah, he's got pretty much like shrubs all along the edge of the stream.
I mean, he mows
Up here.
it down basically too. It
Well, he was
doesn't-
supposed to not to, remember?
Yeah.
But I don't know if he really stopped that or not. I guess ours is just such a natural area, we don't do anything there, you know, so it'd just be,
But selective trimming is nothing that's gonna end up disturbing the roots. Anything's gonna just
yeah, as
come back
long as
like-
that's the case, if we don't think there's anything else more there. I mean, Dave, you see it pretty regular, shrubby there, herbaceous vegetation?
On the south side,
Yeah,
just a lot of tall grass is what I noticed.
some more herbaceous.
Yeah, and then there's some, I guess you call it small trees, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not a botanist, but, yeah, you know, some of the stuff that you find growing in wetlands, that are, you know, that are in this area that we just think we have to prune up, trim a little bit.
Well, should we just all do a drive-by by the end of the week?
Well, if you're gonna issue an order tonight, you need to vote on that tonight. So you need to decide if you think you wanna see it, or whether you think you can issue an order. As I said, I don't have any paperwork prepared, so I don't have anything for you to sign. So we have to do that at the end of the meeting, because I have to print it off. Unless, as you're saying, if you wanted to come in, vote it and come in.
Vote on it and then come in and sign it.
Yeah, that's okay.
That works for me.
Harold will be appreciated.
Well, then I'm gonna say back, they need to let us know before they do the work.
On the record now.
Because the last two projects, they didn't. On the record. Right? I mean, if otherwise it won't be, we won't be so maybe easy to issue the next one.
So he's
Someone's
going to
gonna make
do
a
more.
motion.
Yeah, I mean, he seems to be trying to pick away at them
So
a
how do I
couple
say
of
this?
years.
Make a motion to, what?
Well, you want to make a motion to close the public hearing and to issue an order of conditions. This is under both the bylaw and the wetlands, or just under the?
Just under the wetlands, I believe,
Under the
because this project is exempt from your bylaw.
Yeah.
Because it's a
Pending our-
culvert repair.
Pending
Well, we have 21 days to issue it, so if you vote to issue it and you vote to have conditions, that would be similar to the conditions that you issued in the past, and the boilerplate plus any special conditions that we feel are appropriate, like low flow, like trimming only, like if there's any stockpiling of material,
Remove the brush, whenever they do come out, removing it or...
yeah, without having drafted it, I haven't thought of what you want for conditions. That's the problem. So you could give me the authority to draft it, as we've discussed, and I think is necessary to protect the interests, and then you can sign it or not sign it when you come in.
Okay.
If you think it's not appropriate or...
And because there are likely to be more of them, it would be useful, I think, to draw one up that we think will cover.
Well, we have already done two, that's what I'm saying. I can go back to the two that we've done and take a look at, what we've got. But, every site's a little specific, so,
It would be a special condition. I think your point about the pruning only and maybe review by the commission prior to pruning.
Is there any erosion controls proposed, or?
There is. We're proposing a state silt fence across that area just to try to knock down there hasn't been any problems with siltation in the ones we've done in the past, but we have showed erosion control in the past, so we're doing that again just as a layer of protection there.
Do
Are
you
those
have this
pretty
all in the
visible?
sentence and be able to make a
The
motion?
erosion control?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see it. It'd be that black silt fence
Yeah.
that we're proposing. We're not proposing bales.
I guess they work well from an environmental point of view. Aesthetically, I don't think they look very good.
These would be pulled out. These would be pulled out pretty. This is a situation where you're not going to have a site unstable for a long period of time. So in a lot of construction
So
sites,
these aren't permanent.
no. These would be- You just put it in, you do it,
Right.
but once
Make
the
the
ground
motion.
is stabilized, we pull it back.
Do you understand what,
I think so.
how?
Yeah, we always revise it if you don't. Go ahead.
Yeah, make a motion to issue the order of conditions.
We'll close the hearing first.
First make a motion to close the hearing on DPW's request for Randall and Jordan Roads.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So we're going to make a motion to issue an order of conditions based upon Carol's recommendations or Carol's recommendations.
See, this is why I didn't want to.
I know,
Well, what I said, based on past orders for this type of slip lining technology.
Yep. So make a motion to issue order of conditions for DPW Randall Road and Jordan Road intersection culvert repair based on past orders of conditions for similar type slip lining processes with any modifications that Carol would propose.
And I guess our site
The
control.
site.
And
And as determined after a site visit.
yeah.
There you go.
And as determined after a site visit, sorry.
So all in favor?
Second.
Oh, yeah, who seconded? I'm sorry.
Discussion?
No, hold on, yeah.
How will this look different when it's all done?
The only thing you're going to see different is it'll be you'll see a smaller piece of pipe protruding a little bit from the what it did before, and on each end.
It's not flared on one
A
end?
little bit. No, we're not doing a hydrobel in this case. We didn't need for hydraulics.
So a
just
little bit of longer
a
plastic
little
pipe.
bit more plastic pipe. You probably will not even see it.
What color is plastic pipe?
Black.
Black, okay. Thank you.
So yeah, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Are you here for their next one? I don't see Harold or anything.
I'm not. I have no idea what is it?
They're just recycling the asphalt pavement on South Bolton and
Warner Road,
Warner Road.
South Bolton Road and Warner Road. Oh, two separate.
Yeah, one request for determination. I don't think Warner Road has any wetlands at all. It's just, that's the other road they're doing.
So that they're doing a mill and fill, or they're doing that process where they...
Asphalt recycling and asphalt and upper surface treatment with aggregate cover.
Well, why don't we open it Janet, and we can
Okay.
read what they've submitted then.
All right.
I don't know what it is.
Greg's not here to represent them on that, and I don't know. Okay.
Moving on to the next one, the Bolton Conservation Commission will hold a public meeting under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act and Riverfront Act. Consider a request for determination of applicability filed by the Town of Bolton DPW for asphalt recycling and asphalt rubber surface treatment with aggregate cover overlay on South Bolton Road and Warner Road. Public meeting will be held Tuesday, July 15, 2014 at 8:05 PM in the Town Hall, Bolton, Mass. Whoever is representing that.
Nobody's ready to represent them.
No, no one's going to be here?
No, it doesn't look like it. We're just here now, it's late, so that.
So it's that existing process is.
It's the same process they did on Fox Run Road,
Yeah,
which we did as a negative determination.
yeah.
And Warner Road does not have any wetlands that I'm aware of on it, the section that they're doing. They, South Bolton Road does.
The whole thing?
The whole road,
They
yeah.
gonna do the whole thing?
But here are the maps.
All these 7 right angle turns?
So that's Warner. There's a wetland further down as it goes into Harvard. South Bolton, so it looks like starting at Berlin Road.
The entire stretch right to the line.
Well, no, I mean, there's some sections.
No, just asking me.
Oh, that's what they're showing on the map,
All the way down
to Lively.
to here. Yeah. That's the whole thing?
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, where is Warner?
It's a
Warner's on the other one.
Yeah.
It's off of Harvard Road.
So these are two separate
Yes.
things?
Roads,
Okay.
yeah.
This is not.
But we don't think this really involves the wetlands at all,
No.
right?
That's where Drumlin Hill Road, the Northwood subdivision is. We've been up there quite a bit, there's not any wetland systems up there. I mean, there's in the back of Drummond, but not on Warner.
So it's more west and south Bolton Road.
So we're considering this all as one now,
Yes.
even though this one involves wetlands and that one doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know why they included that one, but I guess they just wanted the person to make their determination.
So where is the wetland on this one? Do we think it has any?
A couple of street
Yeah.
passes.
Where is the whole asphalt thing gonna be done?
That whole road,
The entire,
that's what they've highlighted.
Of course, they did 117 in that process.
what?
They did 117 the same way.
Yeah.
Okay, and we,
Well, in Fox Run Road, and Fox Run Road had just one stream. We just reviewed that one this spring, and then they just did it in June.
okay, so do we think that this can all be done without any impact?
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, I haven't driven the road to look at where the edge of the wetlands is. The only thing that's a little bit different, that, Fox Run Road was all developed pretty much except for a few lots in the beginning.
Yeah.
The only thing that I saw, which I hadn't really noticed on the 117 one, is that just a little strip that gets basically burned along the edge of the road, along the edge of the curb, like maybe a foot on either side. So it'll come back, but I don't really know.
The only place that might get tricky is after you cross here and you're going along and it's the area where it drops down on both sides.
Yeah.
Well, there's the arm
There's a
coat,
guardrail
the
there,
steel
though, right?
fence.
There is a guardrail, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're gonna be burning it, but it just dropped down on both sides.
Yeah. Well, then I don't think it'll burn anything other than what's the guardrail on. I don't know.
So, other than that,
Yeah.
So, there was not on Fox Run, there was no impact to the wetland, and on 117, there was no impact when we did it.
done it, whatever they're doing.
And it needs to happen.
Make a determination on this one.
Yeah,
Okay, so I do a separate one to close this hearing, or is this not considered a hearing?
it's not a hearing. Well, it's a public meeting anyway, it's not a hearing.
Okay.
This is-
Do I have to close the meeting?
No.
No. So I'd like to make a negative determination based on the Wetland Protection Act and the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, because we think that this won't have any impact. All in favor?
Aye.
sign it. No, I'll get it for you. Sorry.
Okay, next up is Combine Capital Partners, continued public hearing on notice of intent.
Okay, so I received a letter or an email from the engineer, Mark Dibs. I'm just looking for it. Requesting to continue the meeting. There's too many things in here. He sent me an email requesting that we continue it. He still is in the process of responding to the peer review's comments. And he's also filed with the planning board, I believe it's with the planning board, and has a hearing coming up at the end of the month with that. And so on Thursday, we're actually doing sort of an in-house review of the proposal. So there'll be maybe further comments, maybe he's waiting to see if there's other further comments as well. But anyways, he's intending to be able to respond in a timely fashion to have the hearing at the next meeting, or have further discussion at the next meeting.
Okay. So what do I do after that?
So you need to continue it, and so far you have something, what did we decide? 7, what did we do the other one?
I think we did 7.
7. Let's see. Did I write down? Yes, we decided 7:30. So I'm going to do, let's see, so that was going to be Long Hill and Meadow.
So that shouldn't take too long.
No.
No, so
The
we can do
residences
seven.
always take long.
What?
The residences always take
Yeah,
long.
so that would, so maybe we can do this one at 7:45? Reasonable?
Okay. Just put that in the notes. Okay.
So, let's do
On to the next one is
Irvingfield. 164 Still River Road, continuing the public hearing on a notice of intent.
You ready?
Yeah.
I'm Tom Roadkill and my son Andy. Hi. I guess on the 9th, this letter that was addressed to the Conservation Commission as a proposal looking at what Duchamp and Phyllis Gregg had designed here. As a recap, this is an existing dry well right here that catches some of the water off the roof as well as parking lot water. And it's basically a steel top with a, I don't know, a 3-foot diameter leach jet. There is a 4-inch PVC pipe that goes out to some riprap here. 90% of the time, nothing comes out of that. A storm like today, it comes out running down here. What Greg has proposed, that this be sealed up, and then on our neighbor's property here, this big tunnel type system here be put in, and it gets to leach in a way bigger area than this. It gets to leach into this. And on your last meeting, I guess you proposed that there was some questions brought up about it, I guess, and you wanted to get a second opinion on it. And I guess
Well, they
that's what
designed
this
it under the
is.
stormwater standards, and we wanted to have an outside peer review consultant review it, which is typical for work on parking lots and commercial projects, and I mean, even, smaller homeowner projects sometimes is done. So that was what we were doing, is following the standard.
Yeah, I would just like to ask whether it's really necessary. I mean, this has been working for 20 years like this. This is definitely a far improvement over that. And we've already spent thousands of dollars with Duchamp, and now you're asking me to spend another $2,800 to have somebody else say, is this gonna handle it? I guess that's what basically you're gonna say. And I guess I'm more of the
Well, it's not quite what they're gonna do. They're gonna review it under the stormwater standards and evaluate whether or not the standards have been met. So not just really just the hydrology part of it, but whether the standards are being met.
the standards of,
The stormwater policy, the state stormwater policy.
to collect the drain water. Yeah, I'm just.
Right, but I'm just saying, it's not just the
I
hydrology, it's the
understand
whole,
that,
it's the whole standards that they review.
It's,
And the design, and not necessarily just the, again, whether or not it's going to outlet at the same, or it's gonna have, it's the overall design. whether
It's not
it meets the
outletting
standards.
though. It just.
Well, infiltrating,
leaching,
whether it's
yeah.
gonna infiltrate as they say it's going to, or whether there's other information that's needed.
I mean, they usually.
So
do
you
have-
don't, this is a normal thing, or you just don't
Yes.
trust Duchamp to do this sort of stuff?
No, it's just, it's the standard procedure, and we'd like to be consistent and require it. We require it for one person, we require it for the next person, and sometimes they do have, interesting things to add.
Actually, the previous agenda item
The exactly.
has been continued so that they can respond to a peer review
Right.
of the stormwater characteristics of the project.
Right.
So we do
Who
ask,
was they?
this was Condyne Capital Partners.
Condyne Capital.
Yeah, it's a project on
Main
Main Street. near-
Oh, I thought you meant that previous meeting we had. and I-
No, I meant the previous project, the previous one that was on our schedule. Yeah.
There was a peer review
Yeah.
done, and it's, they asked to continue because they're
They need to
taking
respond.
time to respond to actually some rather detailed comments. in it.
Right.
Mhm.
So, yes, we do ask other people to do it, and they do come up with things that are worth considering.
Mhm. Okay, well, I just wanted to appeal to your practicality of stuff where something has been working in the past, but if that's all you can do, that's all you can do, I guess. We'll just have to bite the bullet and pour some money down the dry well, basically.
Well, make sure that it meets the stormwater standards so we can approve it. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the end goal, is to be able to approve it, so I think so. So everyone got a copy of Horsley and Witten's proposal, which was dated, as you said, July 9th, and one question that one of the things I wanted to ask you was, in the last peer review that they did, we did request that they do a site visit. They put it in as sort of either a site visit or a hearing as far as the cost estimate, and last time you felt pretty strongly that it was valuable for them to go and do the site visit, so I just wanted to ask you whether you wanted to be specific about that and make it that they do the site visit, or did you want to leave it that they review the material and determine if they felt like they needed to do a site visit? And we didn't ask them to attend a hearing the last time. So anyway, I just forgetting the proposal, that's how I laid it out. Well, who did the site visit for this site?
Originally,
No, well, with this notice of intent, did any of you guys go out on that already?
For this
Yeah,
one at
you-
the very beginning, months and months ago? Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there a second one?
It was in the, this carried
Last
through
year.
the winter,
Yeah.
it never got
Right,
resolved, so
okay.
it's just been,
Oh, but not with
That's
this
on the-
new filing, you didn't go out since we got the new filing? So you haven't looked at the
There's-
chambers?
See, I wasn't on it. I was sort
no,
of not
you
attending.
came out to that meeting,
Last
is that what
year.
you're referring to?
No. The first hearing we had was in June, on the 17th.
Right.
So I didn't know, I couldn't remember if anyone went out and did a site visit since then.
Since this June
Since-
17th?
Yes, yes, we
Oh,
just,
no,
this is
no,
a
I
new
didn't know.
application, new hearing.
Okay, no, I did not.
No, Duchamp took quite a while to get all the
Yeah.
details together.
But so none of the members have looked at the location of the chambers being proposed
Oh, that's
or any of
correct.
that, correct?
Right,
So then it would seem like you would want at least to have your peer review
Yeah.
consultant go out and take a look at that. And maybe you guys want to try to go out at the same time, we could try to coordinate that, so you can at least
Sure,
see it.
yeah.
Okay. So any other questions or concerns with the proposal? So, let me just double check. And I sent them the plans and I sent them the stormwater report. I did not have an electronic notice of intent at the time to send them. So the proposal, they didn't request that at this point, but we'll need to just double check whether they'll need that, which Duchamp and Dillis could presumably provide.
You got the, I think it was the state that sent us a
Yep,
letter saying
they
there
also
was
got a
no
letter
impact or
from
something.
Division of Fisheries and Wildlife, similar to what Greg had mentioned. They will not adversely affect the actual resource area of habitat for state protected rare wildlife species. And under the Endangered Species Act, there's will not result in a prohibited take. So they don't have to do anything further under MESA or Endangered Species Habitat. Okay, so if you want to vote to execute the contract, then I can do that.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we vote to execute the contract. Is that sufficient?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then we'll continue the hearing too.
And what are we up to now? We did 7:45 for the last one?
Yeah.
We can do that in 15 minutes, or should we go to 8:15?
What was the last one? Was Condyne? No, I don't think we can do that in 15 minutes.
So 8:15?
Okay.
8:15 on August.
Question for you, how do you handle, do you need money for this, or do you?
Yes, so usually you just submit a check made out to the town of Bolton for the
Okay, so
2,800.
you
We
hire
put it in
them
an
and then-
account, yeah,
Uh-huh.
and then when they submit a bill, like I just got the first bill from the other project, and they, and then I just pay that out from the account that they set up.
Okay, so I can just drop a check
Yeah.
off to the town of Bolton? or something?
Yep, town of Bolton.
Okay,
Yeah.
you done with us then? Are
Yep.
we all set?
Yep.
Okay,
Well,
so
we're
you
gonna
do a
continue
site
it, so,
visit? Are you gonna do a site visit? Is that what you're?
well, I think we're gonna try to coordinate it with the consultants, the peer review consultants, so that, in case anybody has questions or comments that they wanna bring up, then,
Okay.
so we can let you know about
I'd
that.
like to be there when
Yeah.
that happens, and so if you can notify me as well, I'd appreciate it.
And can I just have you also then, since you're here, sign the continued form to the August 18th meeting?
19th, right?
19th, sorry. Yeah.
What's that? What is this for?
Just so that we can reconvene the hearing
Oh.
at our next meeting.
Yeah.
So the goal will be to have executed the contract, have the site visit, have their peer review completed, and hopefully sufficient enough time that Ducharme Dillis can then respond if there's any need to respond to any of it. That's always the goal.
Okay.
And we have a good window in between now, so
Yeah.
hopefully that'll.
Yep. No, in your time frame, I mean, we don't, it's working, so, but we want to keep it moving, so.
Right.
If we can get it done, that'd be great. So,
Great.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
So, Wachusett Realty, 562 Main Street.
Good evening.
You want to say who you are again?
Sure, I'm Rob Oliver with David Ross Associates. With me is Mike Tenalia from Clinton Savings Bank, on behalf of Wachusett Realty, the applicant. At our last meeting, we discussed this project. As you recall, we submitted a request for determination for the minor work we have in the riverfront and buffer zone. There was a site walk, I guess a couple of you were there, looked at the wetland delineation and the stream that's out and back on the town property. We've presented all our information. If you have other questions at this point, came as a result of the site walk or anything else that's come up, we can certainly answer them at this point.
I think we were in agreement about the wetland.
Well, can you talk about this? Yeah, I didn't, because I don't know, only 2 people went out, is that right? Yeah,
Jim,
sorry, so you were saying.
I think we were in agreement about the wetland elimination, looked accurate to us.
I don't think we have any other questions at the time.
So one of the questions we had asked at the last meeting was about whether or not to limit the amount of lawn in the backside of the septic system. Did that seem like it made sense, or did it not make sense, or, right, isn't that one of the things we talked about?
We did
Whether,
talk about that, yes.
having looked at it, do you have a different opinion? Or the same opinion?
Well, it's a small area. I mean, I guess it's better to leave it unmowed, but it's small. I mean,
Well, how many square feet is it?
In the buffer, it's, I think, a total of 300 square feet. So
And did we need any kind of delineation at the toe of the slope then, so that there's not intrusion?
That's certainly a good idea.
Yes.
Like, what would you suggest for there? I haven't looked at the site, so, I mean, I know that you drive by it every day, but I haven't been in the back.
it's all lawn out in the back.
Is that?
It's all lawn out in the
Yeah,
back.
but then it turns into woods, right?
It's wooded, brushy woods,
Yeah.
and everything we're doing is within the lawn area.
Yeah, so and the grading goes up to the woodlands then?
Yeah, for just briefly, and then it turns out lawn. We're not clearing anything. We don't really need to do any work back there other than our earthwork.
So can you envision that you'd want to have something along
a
the?
natural barrier already.
Yeah, and it's not like a consumer is gonna be, gee, I want some more lawn here.
Yeah,
Nobody's gonna do that.
Landscapers that come in.
yeah, we talked about that at the last meeting.
Yeah, the bank has a landscaper that they use. They take everything off-site. There's no dumping. We'd be more likely to have lawn clippings and fall litter dumped with a homeowner here. So I think you probably improve your situation back
How
there.
long does the bank intend to stay? I mean, you were over at one other site, so I mean, it could vacate and then be another
Well, like,
building?
and I'll let Mike change my answer if I'm wrong. This is an opportunity for the bank to have a better location in town. I don't believe there's any plans to leave the site once they're here.
This will be our permanent location. We're a renter across the street. We'll own this location, and our intent is to stay there. We've been in town for almost 30 years now, so it's not an intent that we have to move out.
This is a purchase, not a rental.
It's a purchase, exactly. It's a purchase, demolition, and rebuilding and construction.
And I know that they're frequent sponsors of Rotary Club events in our area, so we hope that they stay on that.
Our intent is to be there, and we have no plans to leave town. It's a commitment that we're making to the town. I mean, this is a very expensive proposition for us, so it's not something we're going to do short term. So we'll be there a lot longer than I
So, do you think there's any conditions that you want to set then, or not? Only you and Jim saw it, so you really would be the
Yeah.
ones who haven't
No,
seen
I
it if you
don't
think
think
there's
there's
anything.
anything.
Okay, so then do you want to make a negative determination? Negative 2, let's see, it's buffer zone, right? Negative 3?
Right.
Okay, so, do I close the hearing?
It's a public meeting, so you don't have to close that one again.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that we make a negative determination. On the basis that it will have minimal impact, or?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Okay.
Thanks again.
You're welcome. So you need to sign that. Rob, should I send it to you or to Mike? or-
Send it to me, that's
Okay.
fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Since right there's a lot of money, we'll move across the street.
But it the vet, this abuts the vet.
Yeah. So where are we?
Now on BCT, Both Conservation Trust.
Oh, right on time, aren't we? So I don't know if anybody was planning to come for this one or not. I mean, we could continue it to issue the order conditions, basically.
Including 7:15. There's a meeting this Thursday.
Tomorrow night, I think it is.
That's almost Thursday.
Do you think, is anybody planning to attend?
I am.
Brian, you are?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm hoping to, as of it.
What time is it and where is it?
I
It's
might,
Houghton, no. Oh, God.
wait, I might have it. I think I printed it off. Oh, wait, I did say it in here. 7 o'clock, July 16th, tomorrow night.
Where?
At, I didn't tell you that. Do I have that?
I'll take it. I can only take so many meetings per week.
Here we go, sorry. In the Houghton building,
It is
the room that we usually meet in. Yeah.
And did you say 7:30? I'm sorry. I have it all written down. No,
7 o'clock.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are just issuing an order of conditions tonight? Is this what
Yes.
we're doing?
Well, you need to close the hearing, but
Oh, okay.
before you close it, let's just go over the conditions. If there was any comments on what I sent out as a draft. I did have a couple of late questions, actually one question that I sent to Brandon, but he may not have gotten it in time. I don't know if any of you guys remember, I just wasn't positive about whether, they said that they're restoring like 280 square feet of bordering land subject to flooding, I just didn't remember exactly where and how.
It's partially paved. The area where it had flooded before, when the stream went around, it's partially paved back there. Not so much partially paved, but it was like, you could tell it was a flat top at one time, it's just been broken up. I think it was clearing out all of that, all of the loose asphalt, and letting that naturalize or go to grass.
Yeah, but was that gonna provide flood storage? So, because I remember there was some discussion too about opening up that other, behind 715, wasn't there an area there that we're talking about opening up a little bit? I couldn't remember anyway where they were proposing
Yeah,
the land
where
subject
it-
to flooding.
Where the egress was when 715 came in, where the stream comes back out, I think is what we went to look at over there. And I can't remember if they were proposing anything or just, cleaning up around it.
There'd been a bunch of culverts that had fallen in on
Yeah.
themselves and needed some general cleanup. We could open it up.
Yeah.
I think that would be the storage, only because it's the main crossing. Maybe there'd still be the main crossing.
So what would,
Where the towers.
Wait a minute.
I can they'd be removing the tile, but I don't think there's any kind
Well, just in their application, they say they're restoring 280 square feet of plant subdividing. I couldn't remember how or where.
Is that the map of it?
Yeah, I mean, I could just say in the, or, yeah, I could just say in the order, you know, the proposal for restoring the 280 square feet of land subdividing should be submitted to the commission before. I mean, if it's already on the plan, it's already on the plan, but if it's not, then we can look at it, right?
I thought it was on the right. This is the existing driveway, right, coming in?
of, the back section,
Yeah,
behind the building.
Yeah, it was like that back corner.
Not straight in,
Right.
yeah.
And I think that's what they,
It's
because
behind
when
the
it flooded before, it flooded through. So I think they were talking about like this area right here that we're removing. But I could be also making that up.
So is this wetland up here would expand into?
Where all the invasive species were, that whole area.
Yes.
Towards the building. Good number.
So the questions I had in the order were just to confirm, I assumed in my draft that you were not going to require any kind of escrow requirements. Similar, sort of, almost similar to a town project, not really. I mean, it's improvement, it's restoration, there's not, even if there would be maybe bank planting a little bit, you know, if depending on what they find when they open the culvert. But I didn't put anything in for that. I don't know whether you feel like you need to or not.
Why wouldn't we?
Well, I just assumed because it was a project that's related to the benefit of the town. That's what they were doing for the town project, so I was trying to keep the cost down.
I see.
It's non-profit.
They're not gonna skip town and take the proceeds and use it somewhere else.
Probably not. No, so long as they had the proceeds to restore it, I guess that would be the only thing.
This part, yeah.
I didn't see that falling through either.
Right.
Have they had projects in the past? Or maybe they haven't, I don't know.
There was one crossing for the lot near Bolton Spring Farms a long time ago. In that case, there wasn't any security requirement, and it was really a temporary access, I think, just for testing.
It was.
And I think it was after the fact, too, the filing, so there wasn't anything. But no, I can't think of another one that they've come before us, unless, I mean, jointly for trails.
So there's no good precedent we can point to.
No, but I would say the same sort of thing, the nonprofit and for it's the benefit to the town project. You know, we're trying to help them keep the cost down to improve it. And then, you know, I had some special conditions, just some of it reiterating things that either were said in the meeting or to just make sure that it happened the way we would expect it, like, you know, stream restoration work done during low flow periods. All disturbed areas that should be stabilized within the growing season, be stabilized within the season that they're altered. That the meadow seed mix be submitted to us for review and approval before they could apply it. They had a condition on their sheets that said that the bypass plan and schedule would be submitted to the engineer for review and approval. I just said it should also be submitted to us. And then I thought around the Japanese knotweed area that it would be helpful to somehow have that staked out or flagged out or somehow defined, so over time it could be monitored to see whether it was effective, what they were doing, and or that it didn't, that the extra mowing didn't go beyond the area that, you know, we wanted them to do. I also added an additional erosion control condition for both the stockpile area and also along the stream after the demolition and stabilization if we felt like we needed more specifically in those locations.
What did we say about the extent of mowing?
We said that they could mow the Japanese knotweed more frequently. Everything else was only twice a year.
Was there some disposal plan? Because that's one of those ones that sprouts from pieces of stick.
No, I don't think there was. Do you want to have them submit a disposal
Because I
plan?
think if we're they're not gonna have a disposal pond, it's better to leave
Actually,
it.
did they mow or actually go in? I've never had.
Well, I
to
think
go in.
what Brandon said was that in this case, they were gonna be doing so much excavation that they were going to excavate it, but that they also wanted to be able to mow the area more frequently if it needed it, and that they thought that between the two, having excavated it and then the frequent mowing, it might actually, they might be able to beat it down.
Right.
That was, I think, his proposal was last meeting.
It just has to be some regular, I mean, you can spread it if you mow and if you don't, just, that's my understanding. Just construct from a piece of stone.
Yeah, disposal plan for knotweed, both with excavation and mowing. So we'll get something. And the other question, I wasn't completely sure whether you'd want to make this a longer-term condition that would go beyond the certificate of compliance. Again, I don't know how long it's going to take, so it's possible that we would want it to be something that would continue, a longer period. So I just put that in. And pretty much the rest is boilerplate.
I think I would state though, that where we had collecting any fees, make it clear that it is for a nonprofit for the benefit of
So
the
make a
town.
finding.
For the town of Bolton. Not just that it's nonprofit, but they're doing it for the town of Bolton. Just so we have it clear why we're not collecting it.
All in favor?
We need to sign, yeah.
Oh, we need. Case 401 Berlin Road, Lot 4, continuing the public hearing on a notice of intent.
Good evening. I've got a wicked case of the bug. I'm gonna kind of stay over here, if you don't mind. I asked him to sit on that side of the room.
Wonder if you guys could just introduce yourselves, because we have a new person interested in joining the commission. I just want to make sure she can follow the meetings.
Yeah, Bob Pace, I'm a gentleman and a builders. And my name is Matt Morrow. I'm an environmental consultant with a really bad cold.
And a young child.
That's my grandson, Philip. You want to come up and be on TV? So, we got the two applications in, is that right? Okay, one for the main driveway and then our... No, we don't have one for the main driveway yet. We have one for the house.
That's correct.
The driveway that goes to the house. Okay. The grading and other issues are being resolved for the NOI application for the main driveway.
So we had a public meeting on the lot 4, and then we had a proposed site walk, which I think some people went to, and then Jan and I did a separate one, so maybe we should just recap on the site walks, right?
I think you were the only one that didn't make it to the side, is that right? Yeah. Okay.
Did you
I
make
have been on one of them
Yeah.
there.
I don't know, I go
I've been
through
there a few
I
times.
feel like,
I don't know if it's the same.
Well, can I just say, when Janet and I went, Bob informed us that there was a revised plan, which I didn't have, but they pulled the grading out of the 100-foot buffer zone. The well is still in the buffer zone, and a portion of the driveway is still in the buffer zone.
do you have that plan that I dropped off this morning? Okay.
Oh, I have a plan you dropped off this morning, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not for the grading. I still needed the grading plan.
No, that was the main plan for that.
No, it was the proposed driveway pavement plan.
No, that showed the house.
No. Oh, maybe, did it?
Yeah.
I thought it was a proposed driveway pavement plan,
No,
because that's what it shows, is a whole
But-
driveway pavement from
but-
Berlin Road. Let's see. We dropped it off this morning. I don't know if I brought it down or not.
okay, I've got it in my car.
Oh, wait, no. Yeah, because this was called proposed driveway improvements.
Okay.
This wasn't the plan that we looked at in the field. But you're right, it does show
Yeah, it shows the house.
the house.
Okay, if everybody remembers this
You can put
house.
it out.
Yeah, sure. The last time we were in here, the board was concerned that this was about 15 feet ahead, and they just started chasing that grade down the hill. They basically put this back on the back setback line here, okay, and it keeps it right out of the 100-foot buffer zone. So we did that. Let me just get oriented myself here. Okay, yeah. So, when we went out there, the well is still in that limit of work, somewhere, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 feet from here, and we talked about a new siltation barrier, okay, that went behind that, which we obviously did.
Did
Okay?
you show that on this plan?
Yeah, it's right here,
Oh, okay.
okay?
Yeah, I didn't get to look at it today.
No, and that was Carol's suggestion, okay, so we did that. So the only intrusion, I think, that Carol mentioned is right in here, the pavement, and the well being right here.
Yeah, what's under consideration, if you don't mind me interrupting,
Please.
is only the portion of the driveway that goes down to the bottom of the where we are going.
The lot 4 section.
That's correct. Doesn't include the whole thing. Not yet.
So that area right here.
And so that part, I guess, you guys might have had a discussion when you were on the site. We had a little bit of discussion too, so that's where we should definitely recap to see.
With the well, what kind of, is it hay bales going around that?
Yeah.
Double hay bales?
Triple hay bales. Okay, whatever hay bales you want. No,
At least double, right?
yeah, we
Because it's on a downslope besides.
yeah, this really is.
Oh, no, we didn't
this
know
is flat.
exactly where it was.
Yeah,
We
this
didn't
is
know
flat. What we typically do is we'll dig a sump right next to it,
Yeah.
not on the downhill side, on the uphill side,
Yeah.
okay, to capture all the fines and so on and so forth. And basically drill the well, and like we did at Sugar Road, okay, which was, way in the back.
I think we did have some double row on the other
Right.
one.
We do like a double hay bale barrier like right in here,
Yeah.
okay, and I think that's what we did before, it wasn't double hay bales all the way down.
No,
No, just
right
around
over
the
there.
well,
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
because it
Yeah.
overflows, yeah. When Brian and I were out there, we also talked about fencing.
Possible split rail fence at where the buffer zone starts, because it was a very tempting landscape for a homeowner to clear some serious trees. Kind of breaks half the horizon.
It's not a bad idea.
I mean, the three of us had discussed it, because it's not trees, it's brush.
It was meadow.
Yeah, it's really metal.
But it goes
Well, it goes
into
into brush, yeah.
And the temptation is you're gonna wanna see that water all the time, and it's very easy to clear out brush as shrubs as opposed to trees. So we had talked about putting a split rail fence and putting markers on the fence saying that it was a conservation restriction. you know,
Conservation area.
conservation area.
And like the little
The
circulars
little,
on
the
the
little ones
fence
that we
posts.
have.
Well, let me ask you a question, okay, and again, I keep getting educated about this, but it's not to keep people out, it's just for them not to make it a lawn, is that correct?
Right, yeah.
So that's kind of, you know, I mean, if you put a fence up there, it's kind of keeping you out of your own yard.
Well, that's good.
Oh, okay, and I'm not suggesting I won't do it, I'm saying that's, you know, kind of
Well,
counterproductive.
it's a split rail,
Yeah.
not a chain link.
Well, no, and I understand that, but you have to climb over it to get to your, okay, to get to
Part
your
of your
land.
land,
Okay, you know, I don't think that that's,
yeah. Would you
Well-
put boulders there or something?
Does it have to be a continuous barrier? I mean,
Right,
do
maybe
you have,
boulders.
you know, or a section of split rail?
I think that
And
that's.
then an opening and another section?
Okay, I think
still
that would
draws
be
the line.
fine. We actually did this in Osterville, okay, where we put a small fence. It was only like this high off the ground. So it depicted where it was gonna go, but, you know, you could step over it. Okay, I
Yeah, I
mean,
think you can still go over a split rail fence pretty easily too, if you really, I mean, you could put a gate in it or
That's what
something
it
as
is.
well. But I mean, a little fence to me doesn't,
I think it would get swallowed up by the
Yeah,
brush, really.
I would think so, too.
Because you'd even notice that eventually.
It would stop a lot.
In our conversation
stop
that we
right
had,
on
we came up with the
brush
split
off.
rail fence. I mean, the three of us were talking, because we originally said boulders, and then the split rail came up, because we figured that was more eye-pleasing, especially with the scenery and.
yeah, no,
the farmland and
I,
everything.
like
And
I said.
like, I have no problem
Not
with
necessarily
somebody, you know,
opposed.
wanting to go down to the water and checking it out and everything. It was.
So have openings in it, it doesn't have to be
Right,
contiguous.
it's just
okay?
something that says this is where you stop and, you know, we just have the little markers that say,
Yep.
you know.
It's the
For a
idea.
split rail to not get swallowed up by the brush, you would have to mow on the other side of it, disturb too, so I sort of wonder if maybe boulders would be better demarcation. And less, you know, less cutting people off from their own property.
so you're gonna build it to sell? Do you find, that I mean, in the ones that you've done recently,
Yeah.
you know, like the boulders that you put on Lot 4 on Fry Road,
Yeah.
and those, that look really, you know, good just as far as a barrier for us. You know, that's again down the slope, you know. it's a
Lot
little-
3 you're talking
Oh,
about.
Lot 3, is that the one? I'm sorry.
No, that, you confused.
Okay, yeah, this is Lot 4, sorry, but that one that's, the only one we had jurisdiction on Fry Road,
Yeah.
the septic, and then it sloped down, and you put big boulders there.
But
I mean,
remember,
so-
that had a much bigger yard too, so I don't think that there was any negativity at all. That was that was 150 feet from the house.
Well, the thing is that if you actually, would my suggestion, if you don't mind, if you take the fence and actually put it 101 feet away, okay, get it a foot out of the buffer zone. And if somebody wants to weed whack in front of the fence, maybe
On
just
the other
around
side,
the
yeah.
posts, it's not gonna go into the buffer zone.
Right.
I guess
It's
my,
not gonna take
yeah,
away from the
but
land.
that's,
And you could put a perpetual condition in that the fence, because that's what I've done, was I've written, you put in a perpetual condition that the fence must be maintained.
Where would you propose that? I mean, you obviously wouldn't want to fence the whole yard. I mean, I don't think that's the purpose of it. Well, it's more to demarc where it's
to
supposed to
demarc
go.
the resource area, the adjacent
Yeah.
upland resource area. But what I was trying to get at is,
Yeah.
do you find that your buyers have an interest in proposing what they want at that stage? Or do you feel like you just kind of do what has been required and then you're done? Because
No.
sometimes the commission's left it open-ended to some degree, you know, that it could be boulders, it could be vegetation, it could be fencing, it could be a combination of, which
Yeah.
is how we've often done it if you didn't know.
To answer your question, I don't think what we do, and this isn't just to make you feel good about it, but we explain what the order of conditions is at the sale, okay? Because if we don't explain it, their attorney is going to explain it, and he's going to scare them, okay? So we take the time to say this is an order of conditions. Yes, it's your land, but you're restricted to what you can do on this land, okay? So we're telling them about that, and basically they're asking questions like, well, what can I do there? Well, you can enjoy the land, you can't cut it, you can't, depending on that, maybe once a year you want to cut or whatever, okay? And like on Sugar Road, that just kind of died out because it just died out on the other side. We put a fence there. On this house, I don't think I would have a real big problem putting a fence here.
Okay, while you're thinking about that,
Yeah.
so the thing that the commission's also interested in is not just this homeowner that you sell it to, that you've taken the time to explain it to, but it's something that other people will also know about, because once the order of conditions has been complied with and a certificate of compliance is issued, most title attorneys or, most of the real estate attorneys are not then going to say, you have wetland buffer zone, you have wetland upland adjacent resource area, so the next homeowner doesn't find out. So that's why, in part, we try to use some kind of a demarcation that's more permanent,
Yeah.
so that they may say like, oh, how come the boulders are here, and then they may inquire about that kind of a thing. And so your things
That's
on the
what I thought.
fences are a good idea.
That's right, and again, putting in, when you issue the certificate, you have that
Yeah,
section
that have to maintain
that
it.
has perpetual conditions, and you
Mhm.
have it that they have to maintain the fence.
Yeah.
So it shows up on every deed search
Yeah.
subsequent.
Yeah. Although I haven't had a lot of experience yet with my perpetual conditions to see how those,
They usually do show.
yeah.
They usually do, in
I mean, I
fact,
haven't had a lot of people inquire about them through the real estate attorneys, when they're going to the closing, but,
I've even had orders that have been closed out with the certificate recorded still show up, showing that it's been there and then closed out, and some people have inquired. It's not often, but that does
I
happen
mean,
too.
I think that I would prefer boulders as both the homeowner and the conservation commissioner, because they don't decompose, no one has to maintain them, there's no question at all that, what it means.
I'd agree with that. I would prefer that myself, okay, if I was the
So
homeowner.
it wasn't, I don't care, this was just a conversation we
Yeah.
had in the field that
Yeah.
fencing, but it's more.
Could you leave it like we did on the first order, I think? There was an order that we did, maybe I'm confusing this with another one, but no, as a matter of fact, Sugar Road, the way it was written, we bought that, we didn't write it, but we had to demarc it
I
with.
have that one right
Yeah,
here.
with a,
You had to come up with a proposal.
yeah, you had a choice. Okay, it was basically a choice. It was either fencing or a living fence or boulders. I seem to remember that.
Because the fear with this one is, in the winter and the spring and the fall and the leaves go, they see the water. And all of a sudden summer comes, we don't see the water. I mean, when we were out in the first sidewalk,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And then we're out there again, it's gorgeous, but it's a different
No.
view. And we just see them going in with the brush hog and taking it right down to the water's edge. It's-
Anyway, I'm not seeing it off the top of my head on that one, but it has not been uncommon for us to
Yeah.
leave it
Open-ended.
open at that, to the point that something is going to have to be done. So the question though that becomes is whether or not, like on the fencing, we have required security escrow to make sure that happens. I think we also had it with the boulders on Lot 3 Fry Road, but of course that wasn't the same. And planting would be a whole other thing. So in that case, I don't know.
I guess I would ask that you maintain the boulders.
Sounds good to me.
As long as it clearly demarks it.
Yeah.
And
So,
Looks like you got
and I think,
the
so we need a
houses.
size and we need a spacing, because it's, again, if for some reason they decide, whoever, say somebody just says they want to buy the order, the lot before
Yeah.
anything happens, we want it to be clear, what we're.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. What we did the last time was 25 feet. I thought that was too close because of the size of the boulders. It almost looks funny like that.
you gonna guess some of the boulders have a
Well,
How long is?
We had a lot of boulders.
3-foot diameter?
Yeah, okay, we could put a wall there on the
Yeah.
boulders, but those were, I think, I don't know, I think a 2-foot boulder gives you the idea of where
Well,
it is.
it needs to be a sizable boulder, it can't be moved easily by someone,
Well,
that's,
2-foot.
the one you did
boulder-
on Fry Road, they were good size.
Well, because we had them there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I would say a 2-foot boulder, nobody's moving that, moving that, okay, without a machine. guess I would ask, you know, I think 30 feet is better than 25. Not that they
So the
don't
thing
cost
with
me
that is,
anything.
the further apart it is, the easier it is for somebody to make
Nice little
a
path
lawn
right down.
expansion there.
I just thought that the size of the boulders that we used the last
Yeah,
time.
but those are bigger than what you're
Right.
proposing.
But, right, and,
When you start digging, you don't know what you're gonna find.
right, so I'm,
If there's room, it's not 30 feet.
no, it's less than that.
Yeah.
No,
So
that's,
a long ways.
Yeah.
no, well, I mean, if you put a boulder there and a boulder, I mean, it's to demarc, it's not to build a wall.
No, I
Okay?
know. What's the scale, like what?
30 scale. So,
Like
every
how
inch.
wide is the house? I just-
It's 60 feet, so you'd have one here, you'd have one here, and you'd have one there.
Yeah. Okay.
That would be 30 feet.
That's all you have, why wouldn't you have it
No, no, no,
along the,
no,
okay,
no, no,
oh,
no,
all right.
no,
Well, I'm just
right,
making
right.
sure I'm clear about it.
No, she was asking.
The spacing, yeah.
You know, I guess my thought would be, you know, we do it, you know, in front of the well. May I? Okay, I'm just gonna point this, you know, I think we do it like this is the line. Like, look, it would sound like right to the right of the well here. You get a wall here, 30 feet out, and just go right to the end of the house here.
Well, I guess, is this, oh, so I would bring it at least to the edge of the buffer zone here. I don't know where it goes off the site. I mean, that's the extent of work.
No, it just keeps going. I mean, you know, I mean, it'll get some point that, you know, I mean, it's,
It's a long ways away from the
Right.
house on the side.
Well, the septic, they're gonna be having to mow that area.
Yeah.
you know, if that's 60 feet, if we went 60 feet beyond the house, I think that would be sufficient.
I don't know, I think you're grading all the way to there. I think you should have them to the extent of the limit of work.
Well, we're only grading to here.
You're grading out along here, and so the siltation barrier being shown up through here. I mean, to me, it would seem like you would go to the extent of the, you know, the limit of the work.
Well, but you're not gonna turn up with a silt fence.
No, I'm not telling you to turn up, because that's not in the resource area, but at,
So
yeah,
here?
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, fine, it's another boulder, it's not that big a deal.
Unless you have to haul away.
What?
Unless you have to haul away.
Yeah. No, it'll be my little luck, it'll be beach sand there.
Yeah.
So what are we saying for size of boulders then?
He's proposing 2 foot
2 foot.
minimum.
Yeah.
2 foot minimum? Okay.
Well, so let's just, so this is just still discussion, so we're not issuing the order at this point because I haven't drafted anything for you, but yes, that seems small to me.
It seems small to
be
me
honest.
too, and I would, yeah.
Well, 2 foot boulder
Yeah.
like this, round. Okay, you know, it's not just a piece of paper. Okay, I mean, you know, a 2 foot boulder is something like this.
Do you ever try to move a rock?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have.
Okay, I mean, that's pretty big boulder, okay? And if they're bigger, okay, I mean, that's the minimum. If I find bigger rocks, I get no place to put them, I'm definitely gonna put them there.
But I think 25 feet is reasonable, because I think if we leave it too wide, then
Okay,
they're gonna expand their lawn.
okay.
So the other discussion we had was about the driveway and the drainage, any drainage improvements were needed, and sort of what the thoughts were for handling the stormwater coming off of that portion of impervious area.
Remember, you were gonna bank the far side, right, and have it all flash straight?
That's what we talked about. I mean, you talked about super elevating it, and I'll say the same thing. I don't care if it's crowned, I don't care if it's super elevated. In my mind, if you super elevated that, okay, I mean, you already have a grass, a natural grass swale there. And that's what I would prescribe we do. I mean, it's not gonna have, okay, it's just gonna be a, okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, it's not gonna be like this. I don't want to put it in
Well,
this.
can you say what it's gonna be? Like, are you talking 6 inches, 4
No,
inches?
2 inches.
Okay.
Okay, it's just, yeah,
You don't want to be, you don't want to be too dramatic.
right. It's like we didn't stop.
Right.
Yeah.
And you guys didn't think that there'd be a problem with the runoff off of that and plowing and things like that? How would it be plowed, do you think, for stockpiling of snow?
How do they do it now? I think they would just take that and run it right over.
Well, I don't know that they
Whether-
plow that now. It's a gravel driveway that
Well,
isn't used.
right, but that's gonna get plowed with the other driveways.
No, I know, but so you're coming down to a wetland at the base of yours. I'm just wondering if they're going to possibly be plowing it into that wetland area.
No, I would think they just continue on. That's what I would think.
Are you talking about?
I actually think they would plow it off to the side. I don't think they're trying to push it all the way up the driveway. I think they're gonna push it, I think they're gonna push it right into this wetland and right into that wetland.
If you hire a plow to come in, we're only considering this area, they're gonna push it up this way towards the house.
Yeah, you have
So
to
they're
say,
gonna
yeah,
come
if they're
up this
coming
way.
in, you're right, they're gonna be working their way up to.
So they won't
Well,
be
that's
able
what
to.
I'm saying. I mean, on the way out,
Right.
okay, I mean.
Unless they buy a plow, in which case we're gonna plow right in there on both sides.
Yeah.
That's a tough one to get around either way.
You know, I mean, that's no different than, you know, no one knows the way they plow it now. They could come down here and just dump it in there. Okay, okay, I've plowed snow. You know, you just don't stop there, and it's a big mountain, you got a problem, you're banging through, you just keep going. I mean, that's, you know, kind of gets lost in here, okay, in the banking. It's not that wide a driveway.
To the left, and then they'll probably push it straight ahead before they take the curve.
One more time, I'm sorry.
I said I would assume they're probably coming down, they push it to the left, and then probably bank some up there before they do the curve.
They'd probably go straight and do it right there, because that's the easiest thing.
Straightforward,
Yeah.
get rid of the bulk.
Right.
Well, so then we can just say, you know, not to be putting it in the wetland and not to be storing it at the base of the driveway.
It's probably a good idea. A lot of people don't.
Yeah, and that should be the same condition, okay, on the next order as well.
Anything else? No vegetation needed to be cut in that area, right?
Just putting the markers, some kind of marker that says that it.
Well, where are we gonna put it on a rock?
But
Wait, you can,
Be nice.
but I don't know how,
I don't know if there's a, I don't know, we can look at it, see if this,
You know, and if you want a couple of posts there, okay,
Yeah.
happy to do that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying
Yeah.
every 20 feet.
Yeah.
obviously.
No, I understand.
Just a couple in there that refreshes people's memory. Again, it's just way too tempting. These are gorgeous ones. Really nice ones.
So let me ask you, so it's not gonna be a meadow forever?
I know, it's not gonna be meadow much longer.
Right, so unless you decided to allow to have any of it mowed, so I don't know whether you do want it to be a meadow or not.
We can't really.
Well, we've done it before, I mean, people have mowed their meadows and we've made it conditions that they can.
Wait, what are we talking about?
Talking about,
That's not in our jurisdiction.
Way up top?
no, I'm talking below the stones, the boulders.
Oh,
The meadow portion, the grass portion.
I would almost think you'd want it to get
oh.
more.
Goes to brush?
It does go,
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
did it go to brush that quick?
Yeah.
I didn't think it
I mean,
did.
that's kind
Yeah.
of, we were
See, we
looking
didn't
at
have
it.
we didn't have any delineation out there, so I didn't really get that.
It's going straight to brush.
Okay,
Yeah, I thought so.
so there's not an area that, okay, it's more
I
up,
thought it'd just be natural.
okay. So you want to move along?
Yeah.
So, if there's no other questions, then do you want to continue it to draft an order? And you're going to give me that plan back? Okay, so these are what goes in.
Motion to continue this to draft an order, is that the correct?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like you have any other questions for him, right? So we'd be at that stage?
Okay, so I just made that motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Alright.
You continuing to when?
August 19th. We'll wait till 11 or something?
Do I have to come down here for that one?
You don't have to.
No, I mean, there's not gonna be any questions.
If there's
You're-
questions when I'm drafting, the reason we leave it open is so if there's questions when I'm drafting it, we can either talk about
Yeah.
it or
Okay.
we can bring it up at the meeting again if we need to. So
Okay.
if there's questions, we would be in touch with you.
Okay, and, okay.
So let me just see, what was the last we continued to, so.
I think we're at 8:15.
Yeah, the last one was, Bronfield was continued to 8:15.
So, we'll need at least a half hour for that one.
No, maybe not, I mean,
Yeah, maybe for peer review.
Yeah, that's gonna be the peer review to go over.
yeah, I mean, it could be, but I would say continue to 8:30 and see where it goes. You know, if you're late, you're late.
In the discussion.
They're not gonna come in presumably anyway, so if we needed the extra time and we didn't have questions, you know, it doesn't matter. if we
Yeah, I
take
mean,
it
unless you
later.
wanted me to, unless we,
Right.
you came up with something that we thought we, yeah, is this the time, Carol, that we can just throw out that Sugar Road question while I have everybody here?
What was the Sugar Road question?
Okay, about the security on that.
Oh, you know, we have other public hearings. I do have that on the agenda, but I don't think it'll be a problem. I mean,
Okay,
we are gonna talk about it, but we're gonna do it after the hearings.
okay.
Right, because do we have something, yeah, we're already, oh, we had something at 9, so we're 10 minutes late. Do you wanna let them throw it out, or?
No,
You just wanted to know whether you're gonna get the fence and the seed money back.
Right, I mean, I brought some pictures, I think you saw it, it's almost a,
Yeah,
yeah, there's no issue with that.
right.
Yeah, because that's a considerable one.
You saw it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll bring it up, because, I mean, there's a little more discussion, but I don't have any problems in making a recommendation.
Okay, I mean, this is, that's already grown. So, hold on. And that's the fence, that's the, and that's the backside right there. I mean, so they got real grass here. And so,
No, that looks good.
so,
Okay, so if
Okay,
you
good.
sign this. Okay.
thank you.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Feel
better?
Yeah, I'm going back to bed.
Yeah, don't even talk to me. Just stay.
There's a wall of masks, you know?
All right, moving on to Shizwell, 311 Still River Road.
You just come up there?
Yeah, come on up. And how do you say your name?
Seasonal.
Shizwell, sorry.
Very close.
Okay, so,
Are you still standing up, Mr. Bolton?
I guess I have to read the whole thing.
Thursday.
Okay, Bolton Conservation Commission will hold a public meeting under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, Forest Protection Act and Riverfront, and under Bolton's Wetlands Bylaw, Section 118, to consider a request for determination of applicability filed by Carl Seashwell and Julia Quinn Seashwell for the expansion of a deck and enclosing a portion of the deck at 311 Still River Road, map 70, parcel 70. The public meeting will be held 9:10 p.m. on Tuesday, July 15, 2014, in Town Hall.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I don't have any fancy drawing the way the gentleman did.
It costs me some money.
But Janet and Jim came up this week, and I guess it's a small plan, I'm sorry. The issue is that there's a brook going through our front yard, and at the back of the house, we're actually going to add about 8 feet of framing to extend the existing deck we have, and then enclose a portion of that. And one of the things Janet asked me to do is, actually, before I do that, the builder is planning on digging 4 sonotube footings by hand. The very back. The issue is that the deck that's there now, we're just concerned the framing is going in the wrong direction, so we thought it would be better just to take part of that out and reframe the whole deck. And that would be 4 of the 48-inch sonotubes every 6 feet. So one on each end, and then one at 6 and one at 12, to make it 18 foot. Those footings would be dug. It's approximately, Doug Story put a porch on before, and he measured 125 feet to the brook from the front of that four-season porch we have. So that's about 145 plus 12 feet out. It's about 157 feet back from the brook where he'll actually do the digging by hand for those footings. And obviously that's within the 200-foot buffer zone for the perennial stream. However, when Janet and Jim came out this weekend, Janet asked me to print up some of those photos, because I actually have photos of the brook dried up. These don't have the date on them, but the issue is that we ran into this back when Doug Story did that original four-season porch. And so the next year, and these were taken September 11th, 2005. I took them just because, in case we ever needed them for this type of situation. So I don't know if you want to just peek at those and pass them
Well, you guys make it clear.
around.
So the issue is if this is a perennial stream, then the resource area goes 200 feet out, riverfront area. But if it dries up, it's an intermittent stream, and then you only need to be 100 feet away from it in order to be totally out of the resource area. So I guess it's been listed somewhere, I don't know how this all is cataloged, as a perennial stream. But the homeowners think that it's actually an intermittent stream, and have photos from about 10 years ago where it dried out.
And you guys looked at it when you were out there?
Yes, it was wet when we were there. Want to see these? And I guess,
Well, not the one at Century Mill, that was dry.
What was that?
Yeah,
That's not a stream though, that's not a
that's true,
stream.
that's true. Now, there's a house there now. Within,
Yeah,
within
150.
200
Yeah.
foot. So, how did we manage to do that?
Well, the riverfront regulations were 1997. The house has been no longer than that.
Yeah, just in the
That answers that.
mid-80s, I think.
So there is within the Wetlands Protection Act provisions that allow someone to overcome the presumption. It's presumed to be a perennial stream if it's shown as a perennial stream on a USGS map, which it is. So the presumption is that they have to overcome is to be able to prove that it dries up. And so there's conditions within the regulations that talk about it. So you can provide documentation, from a competent source that that shows that it's dry over you have to show 4 days. And they don't have to be consecutive days, but you have to show 4 days. You can also do what they talked about in the Rising Tides first public hearing that we had, is a stream stats program that engineers can run to show whether or not it has the watershed and or the carrying capacities really within that area to be considered a perennial stream. Now this, I didn't get to do I didn't print the USGS map, but just, I was trying to think about how big a watershed it might have. I mean, this stream, if I'm, and somebody can tell me if I'm wrong about it, but let's see, this is their lot. So this stream flows, really all the way up through Green Road. It's got a couple of places that it's coming across that sort of join and comes across and comes across. Looks like it flows through here. And so it's just in thinking of that, it's a fairly big watershed, I would say.
so the watershed is what pours into it?
Yes.
How do they delineate?
Well,
where
it's
that
based
starts?
on elevations and stuff, but which I don't have. I didn't do that kind of thing. I don't have that
Is
information.
the number to do is like a half square mile?
Yeah.
A half square mile, so that's what it looks like.
Was it running water or standing water?
Oh, it was
It's
flowing.
running.
It was flowing.
And then you have another stream flows in here. And I'm not saying that it doesn't dry up, because I don't know, but I'm just saying that the way you look at it is to look at the watershed size, to look at, one of the ways sometimes people say to look at it is how many different, how want to say fingers is not the right word, but how many fingers of streams are coming into it, so if you only have the one stream, maybe it doesn't have anything else coming into it. In this case, again, as you go up, it looks as though there's more than that. I think that we talked about a section of the stream over here on Green Road, and my recollection is that the commission, this is years ago too, had found it dry. So it could be that the stream is dry in places and it flows and, it's always, it's probably always flowing underground. It's just where does it break out and where does it not break out? And it may be the soils, as well in your area. Maybe it's, it is, it's not perched in any way over there because you're more on a slope, I think.
Yeah, it's not very deep there either, and it's not this wide. I mean, not on our property when you saw when you
Certainly
came out.
wasn't that wide when we were there.
The entire brook.
But the pipe is quite big, so it must get pretty good flow. From your picture that you just showed us, the pipe looks like a 36-inch pipe at least.
Yeah, I don't know how to judge sizes, but.
Well, a 12-inch pipe would be for really, a trickle that doesn't need to carry very much. And if the pipe that's in there, again, I don't know who put the pipe in or how it was sized or anything, but it looked like a pretty good size one that you showed in the picture. Anyway, my point is just that there are ways to overcome it. So I just don't know that that's sufficient, having the one set of photographs to overcome that one way or another.
The pipe size also, we've got a pipe that runs on the 117 and it's just sheer spring runoff. And then it dries up and it's a good size pipe that doesn't even handle it in the spring sometimes.
Do you remember the pipe in the wetland delineation training site that we saw in Boxford? It had this tremendous pipe, culvert that we walked over, and it would have flooded the road if they had that much water.
I'm just saying it's anecdotal kind of information, so that's all I'm throwing out is that the pipe looked big, so it's one thing to ask, and if you have all these other tributaries, that was the word I was looking for, tributaries coming into the, to the stream, then you need to think of those things, it doesn't mean it one way or another, but those are the kinds of pieces they have to put together.
So the numbers we went over before were if the watershed size is greater than a half square mile and the flow rate is greater than 0.01 cubic feet per second, whatever that means, it's presumed to be a perennial stream unless you can show that on at least 4 days, it's within a year, it's dry. So that would be the kind of proof we would need.
And not within a drought
Not within a drought period.
there's some other conditions that go along with it. Not a drought, there's no withdrawal that's affecting it. It's not being impacted by beaver upstream causing it to not flow, So anyway, those are the things that we would need.
Well, so I guess, I can believe that you're honest people and you say that it dries up. We kind of, we have to go by what the regulations are, right?
Right. I think that unless you saw it for those 4 days, unless you were able to show the 4 days, then I don't feel like you have enough information at this point to overcome that presumption. That's, I guess, where I would be. But getting there, I would take more pictures this summer if we ever get a dry season, if August dries out.
I guess I'm thinking, is it possible to get an engineer or a hydrologist or whatever to say that whether it's greater than 0.5?
Well, right, they would do the stream stats program like the engineering firm did for that other project. I think that's the other thing is to be consistent with what people have submitted. And many of you weren't on for Houghton Farm. Were you on the board for Houghton Farm, Maria?
I think, yeah.
And we had a lot of that discussion about whether the stream was perennial or not. And
that was
okay, so do you remember that discussion? And so at the time, they did have photographs. It was shown that the strata, of the rock was such that it was really going to seep right into the ground. They were able to show the watershed size. And one of the things we looked at was whether there was beaver impoundment, because there were definitely beavers upstream, and that was found not to be impacting that section of the stream. It was like on another tributary or another part of it. So we have made findings that it's not perennial.
I have a stupid question. So when we built our addition and they put berms and, you know, all sorts of hay bales and that sort of thing, is that something that we can do to kind of mitigate any?
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out if.
No, so we're only talking about whether we can make a determination on the perennial stream or not.
Right.
Then, in terms of your project, then the commission would then talk about whether or not they think that there'd be any, first of all, for riverfront, if it's considered riverfront, and so if we're going on that basis, are there any alternatives that would have any less impact to achieve your project purpose? And the whole site, pretty much, the whole house lot site is within the riverfront. So there's not, it would, if you went to do it on the other side of the house, would it matter? As you mentioned, the four-season porch that was approved within the riverfront is in between the work that you're proposing to do. So not having been to the site, that would be a question for Jan and Jim, is whether any erosion controls were needed, you know, for the posts that were being dug. I mean, typically that's pretty minor amount of material.
I mean, it's in the back of the house.
Kind of, well,
Yeah. So maybe you don't need
If
erosion
anything,
controls for that.
It's uphill.
Yeah.
So it's, if it were downhill, then there might be some erosion from the work you would do. But the house is a silt fence in
Yeah,
this case.
right. So, and then what about the location for, and can you just talk a little bit more about the pool?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't clear, when you talked to me in the office, I got the sense of something that was more of like a blow-up kind of a thing, but then when I was asking Janet about it, she said, no, I think it's more like a above-ground pool.
Yeah.
You know, that, and
Yeah.
so I don't know if it has decking or,
Yeah.
you know, stairs or, you know, what the full extent of that is. I'll take
That's
that.
probably my fault. The blow-up one that we were talking about is the Intex pool that, you know, those, you blow up the ring and you put the water in, it's temporary, it comes up and down every year.
Yeah.
We didn't have to use that this year because there were holes in the bottom of it. But it's not that. This is actually an above-ground pool that would be, you know, 52 inches off the ground. I think probably either 20 or 24 foot ground. And the plan that we talked about with Janet and Jim was to have it to the left of that four-season porch.
Well, in that case, they would want erosion controls.
Yeah, but is there any kind of grading or anything going on, or is it flat?
No, they'd have to grade
They
it.
have to grade it.
Yeah, it's actually fairly steep. I mean, it's probably a good 3 foot.
What do you mean going from the, what's the word?
So, yeah, sure. So, looking at the front of the house, if you're in the front yard,
The grading is
looking
this
at-
way, the slope is down there.
yeah,
right?
it's going down and away from the house, so
Not, the stream is out here, right?
yeah, the stream's up here.
Well,
We're
it
talking
goes
about,
more that way, but there is some. I mean, you want the house upgrade from
Yeah.
the stream, so
Oh, yeah.
it is.
oh, yeah, I didn't mean that. I thought we were just talking about the right-hand side here, but yes, there is a grade down to the brook too, yeah, so.
So do you think erosion controls would be needed if, and I guess the other question was just the locations, you looked at alternatives.
It didn't look like you had space enough back here, really.
No, that's because the septic
Yeah.
is back here, the leaching field's over here, so that kind of takes out that side. We really don't want to take trees down.
Right. Looked like you had it pulled back as far as you could.
Yeah,
So no trees need to come out?
no.
And then what about decking? Is there decking around it?
There could be, I don't know about decking, but probably a fence.
If we have to dig enough to make it level, then that would make the pool sink in a little bit closer to the ground. So we'd need to put some kind of fence around. So have you seen the above ground pools, and it has a fence that just goes right on top of the rim of the pool?
Yeah.
Well, I've seen all kinds, that's why I'm asking. I've seen them with decking that I didn't expect, you know, and we didn't talk
The
about.
decking
Yeah,
has
we
so
were-
much money in it, I don't think we'd be able to decking.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking at.
Yeah.
We just get the fence around it.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't even thought of the fencing until the guy came out a few days before
Yeah.
Janet and
It's
Jim.
probably required, right?
Yeah, because of the grade, because they
Oh, but
don't
not
want
from,
to add soil.
They don't, isn't it,
Safety
yeah, I was gonna say, usually around, at least in-ground pools, you have to have a fence, I don't know.
Yeah, but because the grade of the land is so steep, they don't want to add soil, they only want to take soil out. So it would put it to the point where it would be like 2 feet underground, which would then break the law. Because there wouldn't be enough height to that side of the pool. So we'd have to put a fence along that.
So what's the closest distance to the edge of the stream for the pool?
It's almost right beside the porch, so it would be 125 feet. It could be a little bit more at that point because of the shape of the brook and the direction of it kind of turns off.
Turns away from the house.
Yeah.
And then,
Right in front of the door, it basically starts to curve back out. I don't know what it does in front of our neighbors.
so I don't know if anybody was going to ask, but all the other pools that we've had before us have been in-ground recently. So we've had standard conditions that have been part of an order or a deed restriction for maintenance. And I don't know what kind of filters above ground have compared to the in-ground. Like a lot of the in-ground ones now are using like different salt technologies don't require back flushing or lowering the water levels. I mean, do you keep the water in it all the time, or does it come
Yeah,
out?
we leave the water in it all the time,
All
but I
the time.
think there is, it's a sand filter, so I think there is some back flushing. Yeah.
So you don't need to take the level down in the winter time?
See, we've never had,
If you drop it below the filter line, we have an above ground pool.
Oh, you do?
And just, we drop it down like a foot or so, just below where it would normally filter in.
So
And
how do
that's
you,
fine all winter.
how do you drop it down?
We'll just drain it out and just create a backflow.
Okay, so it would be, it has to be strained out onto the grass?
Yeah.
Okay, so then we would need the same sort of, with the above ground pools, didn't we have something about how, that it needs to be drained over?
Right, we had some standard conditions that we had as a
Standard conditions
deed
about
restriction that you required.
Right, so that it wouldn't just be drained right into the wetland?
I don't have them handy because I didn't really know.
Yeah, but probably the same, it sounds like it's the same thing, right? They need to keep the water level down and we need to make sure it doesn't go right into the...
Right, I would think you'd want to do that. I guess where this is a request for determination, do you think you can, well, I'm just wondering if you want to make that a condition of the determination, that they have to do the deed restriction. It's not something that gets recorded, not like an order of conditions the same way. So just keep that in mind.
I mean, if you're taking the water level down, at that point, you probably don't have chlorine in it.
Right, yeah.
The chlorine has dissipated out of it.
Yeah, but that's the same with all the other ones we've issued on as well.
Does that?
Chlorine
just
Well, we've only had in-ground since we've been issuing that, so I don't know.
Why would it be different, why would it be different for above ground?
No, I'm just saying if they lower it for a winter, at some point, they're gonna not put chlorine in the pool. So when they actually go to flush it down to lower it, the chlorine will have dissipated out of the pool and it's not like you're dumping
I don't know
chlorine.
that we should assume that that would be the case because, people might use their pools in
Right up
early
until the time
fall
we-
and then,
yeah.
right until the time that you drain it. I don't know. I don't think we should assume that.
It's a tough one. Well, I'm trying to say, it's a tough one to drain regardless because you are so close. I mean, the house is basically in the buffer zone. And, I know in the past we've said that, drain away from the wetlands. Or
Yeah, so if
we've
you
had-
drain it to the other side of the lot, I mean, not having been there, I don't know. Can you
Yeah.
drain it towards the driveway side at all, or would that then just flow back into your foundation?
And the other side is actually more of a grade.
Yeah.
But does it go to the stream? Or does it go
No.
overland much more?
It's certainly not as close.
Yeah, no. I don't know if we could go backwards because it would probably be too high out back. But to the right of the house, if we did it over here on the edge of our property, it could be like 150 feet away or so.
We might be jumping too far ahead because I thought that those standards we had just had to do with like how quickly you did it. We have to pull up the standards, how quickly you did it.
Hold on, let me see if I can, if you want.
Yeah, you can pull up this. I don't think we need to necessarily spend a lot of time discussing that.
The fill that they're gonna be removing, if they're removing it from the property? Stockpiling?
They could do that.
They could do
Like,
either.
so, what's stockpiling over there? It's just digging it, putting it in a truck and taking it away.
If we could do that, or we have the option of having them just leave it on the property. But I think most likely it would be enough dirt that would have to have a truck on.
This is always the issue of where is it going, you know, again, how far from the stream is it gonna be? So, just something to consider.
I don't think it was gonna be an issue about the equipment to do the work for the porch, because that would go around behind the house.
Yeah,
But
they'll come in around
on
the
the
back.
pool, it could be another story.
So some of the O&M things, this is for in-ground pools, is how you have it drafted. So never drain the pool or hot tub of water directly into a water body or wetland. Any discharge will be a minimum of 50 feet. Slow discharge over land so it doesn't cause scouring, etc. Any paint chips or debris that might wash should be filtered. Shut off the chlorination system or discontinue adding salt, chlorine, chemicals, etc. several days before draining the pool, or a filter backwash. Make sure pH level is between 6.5 and 8.5 before discharging water or backwash. This is the normal range for surface and groundwaters. Do not dispose of algae in any bodies of water or wetland. Store chemicals safely where they will not be subject to rain. Do not dump filtered debris into the water body or wetland. Do not dump leaf litter and surface debris into the water body or wetland. And that's what we've added as a deed restriction.
That sounds like it makes sense for this case.
So do you, as far as your stockpile questions, do you want to have a requirement for any erosion controls around the stockpile, or
They said they're gonna be most likely removing it.
most likely?
Yeah, well, so that's something
You want to condition that it's going to be removed?
removed,
Okay.
or not within, if it's gonna be stockpiled out of the 200 foot.
Can they do that? I don't know if you can be out of the
Yeah,
200
well,
foot
our
now.
whole property is really within the 200 feet.
200 feet.
So then maybe erosion controls around it.
Yeah, if you're gonna be keeping it.
I mean, is the house is in the middle, in the way? I guess I can't, again, picture where you would put the stockpile.
Yeah,
But if you get the house as a buffer, then
most of this is uphill, so it would be impossible to use any of this. I guess anything in the front we could use, but this goes into the, I don't know, I think maybe it would be better just to get rid of it, only
if
because.
you weren't planning on using it, you'd probably just get rid of it anyway, but like sometimes,
Yeah.
you know, people are using it for backfill or whatever, so they have to stockpile it for a while.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I'd just be afraid of messing with the front yard up here out by the road, because then we could affect the Atwood's property next door. What, that made me even change anything with the direction the water might go, if it's that much soil, so maybe it can be better.
So you're next to the Atwood. I guess I would also just say, just for, again, anecdotal, but when Atwood's was constructed, the commission required a conservation restriction on that property. I mean, years ago, this is before I was working here, but I know the name from the files. So just, again, they must have had a reason to be doing that, you know, in terms of the resource area. Maybe the project had needed more mitigation, I don't know, but just something.
Yeah, they needed to, I came to that meeting because they were building next to us and we were just concerned what was going to go in there, but they actually had to build a driveway along the brook to get into the property. There was no other way into the property. So I think it was...
And that was pre-riverfront as well.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
must have been just,
This-
like, probably that year. They probably
Yeah,
just-
maybe.
Oh,
it would have been.
Yeah.
Anyway, so,
And they'll be having to move some equipment in to do the work on the pool.
Yes.
Yes, he said a bobcat to dig up these, to execute.
So that there may need to be some erosion protection guarding against the disturbance of the front yard as they drive through it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like we had to do with the Four Seasons.
Oh, they'll be driving through the front yard, not around the back of the house?
I don't know if they could get to the pool side where we're gonna put the pool, so yeah, that would have to
So
be to
then
the front.
probably straw bottles or silt fence. So I guess I'm starting to wonder, do you guys feel like you're gonna be able to issue a negative determination on this? Or you think they're gonna file a notice of intent?
I think they're gonna need to file a notice of intent, because I don't think we have sufficient information to say it's intermittent. I think we're going with it as a perennial, and it's well within, the whole thing is within 200 feet, so. Do you guys, what do you guys think?
It's either that or that you're pulled off until you can prove that
Yeah, that's the other option, is hold off until you can prove
you're
that.
not in a super hurry.
On both, or you just talking about the pool, or?
No, so to make a negative determination on either of these things, I think we would need to see that, well, actually, I don't know about the porch. Well, certainly for the pool, to make a negative determination, we would need the 4 days that aren't necessarily consecutive, but they're during a non-drought period where you can document that
Okay,
the stream is dry.
okay.
For the other, what do you call it, the patio porch, do we think that makes enough of an impact? You know, or do we feel like we could make a negative determination on that, even if this is a perennial stream?
That's still 150 out, isn't it?
Yeah, and the house is in between it.
Yeah.
And it's already got it.
There's
Yeah.
no place they can move the project
Yeah.
to get it
Yeah.
out.
I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, that's the,
The pool is,
so,
is a big exposure.
what about you, Maria?
Yeah, I don't think there's an issue with the porch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess then we could make a negative determination on the porch, even if this is a perennial stream. But to do that, to have a negative determination on the pool, we would need the 4-day proof of dry.
And alternatively, then you're gonna be making a positive determination.
Right, and if you don't
Which
do
means
that,
you need
then
to file a notice of intent for that if
and go
if
through
you
the whole
don't
process.
go through that.
Right.
Okay.
So, someone needs to make a motion, because we've got one more hearing and another person waiting.
I never know what the motion is. So,
No, I don't think, sorry, I had to
Yeah,
get through it.
that's us then.
In the matter of
So you want to make a negative determination on the proposed expansion of the deck and enclosure for the screen porch.
okay. All right, so I make a motion that we make a negative determination based on the Wetlands Protection Act and Bolton Wetland Bylaw on the porch expansion and the partial roofing of it.
Second?
All in favor?
Okay, and then you're going to make a positive determination.
Well, unless you want to pull that back, the pool, and try to get the 4 days of, do you want us to make the?
It's cleaner if you make the determination. They've asked for that unless you want him to
Okay.
withdraw. So he could
Well,
withdraw
yeah,
that,
I
yeah.
was just
yeah,
saying, well,
yeah.
to him, yeah, up to them.
Sorry, I'm not sure what you're saying.
So, right, we can right now, if you want to
Do I look like a
proceed,
deer in headlights?
do you want to, would you prefer to proceed now, having to deal with the Conservation Commission, and under the assumption that the stream is perennial, so that we would make a positive, what's called a positive determination. We would say, yes, it has an impact, and you would have to go on and file a notice of intent and come to these meetings, and we're gonna ask for mitigation and blah, blah, blah on the pool. It's just gonna draw it out that way. Or would you prefer to just withdraw the pool thing now, this year, when it runs dry, take photos on at least 4 days, date it, and get, clear proof that the stream does run dry, and then we know that it's an intermittent stream, and when you later apply for the pool, we can make a negative determination. Well, you don't have to, then it's not even in our jurisdiction,
Well, are you going
right?
to, no, because you would need to determine that it's the negative,
all right,
it's not a
we would
perennial
do-
stream.
right,
So
right.
they still,
But
so
we
it's,
could make a negative determination on that, because we would determine.
You would have to file a notice of intent. Sometimes with a negative, we may ask for conditions, but you don't have to file. yeah, we may say we'd like some hay wattle up or something where he's going through, but because you asked out of the 200.
So if we file a notice of intent, I mean, either way, the time is gonna be that this pool will not probably go out this summer, correct? Because we would be coming.
No, it'd probably be fall.
Unless you get 4 dry days over the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, over the next.
Yeah, but our next meeting's not till August 19th.
That's true.
And the filing deadline is July 30th for the next
I was
hearing.
gonna say, we need the week's notice too, right, in the paper, so.
No, you're not too late for the paper for the next meeting, but you would have to file the notice of intent by July 30th. So
Oh,
you could go forward and file your notice of intent, presuming again that, you know, it's perennial, and go forward as, you know, we're talking about with the deed restriction and so forth. And if in the meantime, it runs dry, then you could bring that information in, you know, as part of that public hearing. And then,
We
you know,
can make a new determination then, or do?
yeah, because you'd be evaluating the resource areas, and then they could withdraw the notice if the commission found that it wasn't needed.
So that sounds like the thing to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you
So
should make
now I
a
have to.
positive determination on
Okay,
that.
so I'd like to make a motion to make a positive determination on the pool. Somebody, with respect to the Wetland Protection Act.
That's just requiring a lot of ground movement.
I understand.
Sure. Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay, so you need to sign that.
Okay. So you guys
Sign.
understand?
No, the commission needs to sign it.
Oh, okay. And what about the permit application?
So I can sign off on your building permit application as soon as we deal with this paperwork. You know, so I know I'm probably in the field a little bit tomorrow, unless it gets canceled because of the rain. Oh, sorry, I gave the wrong page. But it should be ready, you know, sometime tomorrow if you want to give me a call.
Yeah, I will,
Okay?
sure.
Because what you filed with me, was that the original building permit application, or just, is that with somebody else?
The one I filed with you is, yeah, the original.
The one you gave me in the
Yeah.
application.
But now, I mean, since then, I've gotten Erica's sign.
Okay, so you should bring that in to me then, the one
Sure.
that you have, everyone else is signing off on.
Sure.
Is that the one you'll be submitting to the building inspector?
Yes.
So if you want to just check what my schedule turns out to be, and when this paperwork, this determination paperwork would be ready, then you can bring that in at the same time, pick up the determination, I can sign up for the building permit. And then if you want to get the notice of intent application, I can give you that then.
Okay. All right, great.
Okay?
Thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.
So Tyler's here for the next determination.
Next is Dave's Landscape, 70 Green Road, public meeting. Conservation Commission will hold a public meeting under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act and Riverfront Act, and under Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Section 118, to consider a request for determination of applicability filed by Aaron and Dan Sucheki? Sucheki, I was just phonetic, for the removal of trees at 70 Green Road, map 6B, parcel 109. The meeting will be held at 9:47 PM, July 15, 2014, in the town hall.
Sucheki's contacted us. They have an ash tree that's clearly in decline on the property. I'm not sure which ones of you went out and looked at it.
Can you just say your name for the record?
Tyler Garsick,
Garsick.
Garsick, from Dave's Landscape Management. And the 2 pine trees are of concern as well. Where the board attached, you can see how they're growing in, and I'm afraid that it's compromised the structural integrity of the tree. So they're looking to get permission to remove them. There is a stream that runs behind that. They do say it does dry up come summer. When I first was out there, it was really running. When I went to flag the trees, it was a trickle. They're perfectly fine with leaving the trees as snags. Just get them down low enough so that they're not going to fall on somebody when they're in the yard.
So Jim and I did go out there, and they're really tall trees, and it looked like they could in fact be a danger to the house relative to trust. But it would be great if they could leave up the snags, because especially that ash was a really huge,
Yeah.
large diameter tree.
That's
Great,
great for me,
James took a
less for me
picture
to
of
take
that,
out.
like, pass around, Jim was standing next to the ash. So what height do you think that you can reasonably leave that at that?
They're down on a pretty steep slope, so 20, 25 feet.
Okay.
With the pines, I'd like to get them below that board, get that hazard wood out of there, so I'm going to be removing that board as well. The work will be performed with the crane, so we're not crashing everything down into the woods.
What do you mean below the board? You mean the,
There's a board that has a swing on it.
that cross
Yeah,
piece?
So
that's
to
up.
cut them
Right,
below.
right, right.
Yeah,
Got
just
it.
get that board out of there.
Okay. That's a big tree.
We can get in there easy enough.
Yeah, well, the 65-ton crane right up in the front lawn, and they'll just, not to say a twig or two is gonna drop, but we're not gonna be crashing through the lower canopy, destroying other vegetation.
Should we make a minute determination on that?
Sounds like it.
Anybody have any problem with that? Okay, so I make a motion to make a negative determination on 70 Green Road, the removal of 3 trees. Period.
To leave them as, you know,
Oh, to
standing
leave them
snag.
as standing snags, as discussed. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, Jim seconded it?
And do I have to let you know when this is Becker's?
It'd be helpful to know.
Okay.
The permit's good for 3 years if for some reason I couldn't do it.
Okay.
You know, so, but it is helpful to know whether it's finished.
Alrighty. Thank you very much. Great evening.
So am I gonna send the owners the determination or send it to you?
You can send it.
Send it to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
What is the other kind of? Is Alan coming? Alan Shopper coming? No?
Andy?
Is Alan coming?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because only, you can only be at the public meetings with Alan present.
All right, I'll leave.
Did you want to do, I guess that one next then.
So Brandon wasn't here to do something.
Yes, he is.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, Brandon, are you coming back to that?
Come back, yeah.
Okay. That's the requirement. So do you want to come up and talk about it? The first item on there was the enforcement order. I don't know if Brandon's available to talk about that or not, but. Yes, remember I said how I had amended to include because it's,
Oh, I don't have that one?
yeah, on the sheet I gave, the agenda I gave you
Was it?
tonight. The agenda I gave you tonight.
I thought that was it. All right, right. So first thing to talk about is the compliance with the enforcement order, meaning the restoration plan, which I guess hasn't been done.
Which I don't know if Brandon's prepared to talk about that, but I should just at least report it to the commission. So, we required in the enforcement order that a restoration plan for the area that was disturbed when they traveled through beyond the gravel road or the old cart path area through the stream and the crossing, above the crossing, to have a restoration plan submitted by July 8th, and it has not been submitted. So I just want that noted. I mean, you
Okay.
can start finding
He's
him
technically still in violation.
so he's technically in violation.
You haven't heard from anybody about, do they plan to get it to you soon?
We've talked about it a couple of times. I do know his engineer was off on vacation last week, but the date's been out there since we issued the enforcement order. Back in June. We issued it June 17th. So I just put that, I added it on before we got into the discussion about the bond release, because I think it's important to note that, they're not in compliance, but yet they keep wanting to ask for the commission to give.
Did he have an update on the restoration plan? Did he know?
I'm not sure, I would assume.
Well, as of last Thursday, he did not.
Right.
On the site visit.
So, how are we supposed to release anything?
Well, I think while Brandon's here, we should at least have the report and then discuss this, about the release. But I did want you guys to know about that before.
All right, so I guess what we've done, and I think we submitted back in May, was just the planting compliance and inspection report of your plantings that were done for phase 2 and also a portion of phase 4. There was Aura Restoration Area 1, which is as you drive in the subdivision.
I have the plans to want.
Sure, yeah. Great, yeah.
I flagged the 2 Aura air plans in the back. I don't know which one's first, but. Oh, the flag, there, you see
Yeah, I
right
saw
here?
that, but that's the 2 basins.
No, that should say Aura.
This is it here, yeah. So this is Spectre Hill Road. This is Road A coming in, and basically from the entrance along the left-hand side is approximately the first 350 feet of the road. This is Aura Restoration A. This was the plan that was initially submitted with the definitive subdivision set, and Andy had submitted for approval an additional landscape plan that was prepared by Lombardi, Gray William Lombardi, which just still had native plantings, but it had, where it was the main entrance, they had some more decorative plantings that they wanted to do because this was the entrance of the subdivision. Brian Butler from Oxford Associates was involved, I guess, back at the initial inspection. This was planted in, I believe it was 2010, I think it was.
As you drive up this road, there's soft areas and
Yep.
there are trees and daylilies and things. Are you talking about something that's in addition to that?
Yes.
Behind it?
Yeah, so this planting plan that was done with the landscape architect shows a lot of those decorative plantings, shows the sod. As you go up the road here on the left, you see the sod, and actually, they're not supposed to be mowing
And they're not
around,
anymore.
And they're not anymore. So basically, the plantings that we're talking about that were part of the restoration are kind of just beyond the lawn.
So if you notice that, you can see some plantings, but then it's growing up around them a little bit, because it's supposed to sort of fill in and naturalize.
Okay. So this was planted in the fall of 2010, and obviously has gone through 3 growing seasons as of this past fall, and it's coming up on the 4th. So basically, Brian Butler had gone out and basically done a survey to count the number of plantings, document that all had been done in accordance with this design plan, and we went out in this past fall and essentially did the same thing. We used this plan, we identified each one of the plantings and just assured that 2 things, that they were there and that everything had survived. And the other thing was, in the previous year, as kind of Carol had mentioned, that there was some weed whacking that had taken place in and around the shrubs. And that the commission asked that they no longer continue to basically landscape in and around that area. And essentially that entire area has kind of naturalized, and everything, all the plantings when I went out there and identified them were in place and healthy. The next area, as you continue up into the subdivision, I think everybody's kind of familiar with where the construction trailer is. There's a detention basin behind the construction trailer. So as we're kind of looking at this, the trailer's here, this is the road, this is the basin. The back side of this basin is located within the 100-foot buffer zone, which is the adjacent upland resource area. And this is the proposed planting plan along that berm. This area is Ora Restoration Area 6. This was also planted, it's detention pond 8C. This was planted also in the fall of 2010. Brian Butler had done a few inspections of the plantings. One of the things that was identified is there's an outlet control structure here. They had gone in to do some additional work, and some of the plantings were disturbed. So it was in the spring of 2012, some additional low bush blueberries were installed. And at the time when Oxbow had come in to basically ask for the bond to be returned, those additional plantings had not gone through the full 2 growing seasons. So now at this point, I've gone out, re-inspected all those. We've identified it was red oak, white pine, and red maple plantings through here, as well as the low bush blueberry. All the plantings were counted and appeared healthy. Not to mention it was seeded over with a mix, and there was a number of native species that were kind of growing up and naturalizing the backside. We didn't identify any invasive species. And basically, this area also had established with 100% vegetative cover that kind of meets the intent of what we wanted to achieve there. And now that this has gone obviously past the 2 growing seasons, including the additional plantings that were done in the spring of 2012. So those are the 2 ore areas from phase 2, which have clearly gone through and satisfied the time requirements. And we're both identified to have a complete survival rate and have naturalized. The other Ora area that was reviewed was Ora Area 4, and this was in phase 4. And this is the detention pond. This is Cider Circle. This is the main entrance as you come up off Spectacle Hill Road. There's a detention pond out in here. There's basically a swale that kind of comes down, and the detention pond is located right here. This is the wetland crossing that we've been talking about all winter. So this is kind of before that, up in the woods off the road. It's detention pond 9B. And basically, the same as the other detention pond, there's a portion of the pond that's within the adjacent upland resource area, and the area within the backside of the berm here was revegetated with white pine, red maple, and low bush blueberry, and red oak. We went out, this was planted in the late summer of 2012, so it hasn't gone through 2 complete years. Basically, this September would be the completion of the 2nd year. We went out this past fall. These plantings actually looked really good. They had kind of mulched up around them. All the grass that she had covered had support around them. All the plantings were identified and healthy. The counts met everything from the spec here on the plan. Given the fact that, basically we're almost at this point into the 2 full years, we're requesting to get the bond returned on this, or at least a portion there too. Given the fact that, it's gone through 2 growing seasons, although the order conditions specifically requires 2 years from the date of planting. So that's one thing.
Do we just deal with that first, and then do the update on trail easements, or you want to do the whole spiel? and-
I don't know that he'll be
Unfortunately,
able
the
to
only
do that
thing-
other stuff.
Oh, you can, okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
All right, so we'll just deal with this right now?
I have just one question, on detention basin, 8C.
Yeah.
When we were in the field last week, I thought, when Mike went over to look at it, that they said that the silt fence was still in. Is that your recollection? I remember saying that, oh gosh, I thought that was taken out a long time ago. I just want to make sure that that also is coming, that has, if it hasn't been taken out, that it's coming out.
I can't say for sure,
You don't remember
but I
that?
would recall it, but I think it was in, but I can't say for certain. It was last fall.
Yeah, because I remember we had talked about it a long time ago of taking it out because it was stabilized, whether it had gone through all the seasons. So I just would like to recommend to the commission that we have them take out the silt fence behind that basin. And I didn't actually look over at 9B recently, but I thought we had talked about taking that out as well. Not last week, but I had talked about that with them earlier on another site visit.
With Mike, yeah.
Yeah.
So as part of this, the other thing, component that Andy has submitted is basically he submitted a bond analysis that kind of specifies the amount of bond that's held for each one of these sections.
Yeah, which I was surprised about, to be honest. When I finally looked at this bond analysis, it really had nothing to do with each of the each of the amounts held for each of these ORA projects. It was really just an overall what the town's holding.
Right, and that's why, that was one of the questions I had that I hope that he was going to provide.
Well, I
This
went through it.
149.5 for phase 4. I know there was a portion that was put up specifically for that basin.
I have
wanna
the
say it was-
information.
it was 10 grand or something.
For ORA mitigation area 6, he put up 7,500. For ORA mitigation area 1, he put up 7,500. And for ORA mitigation 4, he put up 10,000. The 10,000 was an estimated amount because he was only in that phase 4 doing one basin out of 3 that he had originally given a figure for, and so it was basically a third. It might have been a little less or a little more, but that's how we came to that.
It was just
amount.
an amount agreed, so we're thinking.
Yeah, so basically, he gave us the calculations. He's asking for $25,000 of bond that we're holding to be released.
So I think that there's still 25,000 that's being held on phase 2, correct?
There is still 25,000 on phase 2, and there's the complete amount on phase 4.
Is that given the full amount on the phase that hasn't gone through its full growing season?
So the $10,000 is for the one that hasn't gone through the 2 years. So if you wanted to apportion it, if you said, well, September's not close enough, and it should go the full 2 years to be consistent, then I would say you'd only release the 5. That's how we've done it, it's just the half.
Oh, is it?
That's how we've done it. The first year, we've allowed to release half.
Oh, yeah. With someone who's still in violation of an enforcement order and with all of the problems we've had, I certainly don't feel comfortable doing anything that's not just by the letter of the law. I want to just go,
Right, I
don't
mean,
want to make any exceptions.
You know,
to that,
and
so.
my feeling is that if you decide, and I completely agree with Brandon's report, I think that the areas have stabilized, I think that, it's been sufficient time on most of those to be able to issue those releases. I would like to make sure the silt fences are out around the bottoms of them, just so we have more, movement, natural, wildlife is able to get through the areas and stuff. But I do think that it shouldn't actually be turned over until he's complied with his enforcement order.
Yeah. Oh, any of it? For
Yeah,
any
I mean,
of
he's
it?
in violation right now.
I know, I
And
guess
so, you could vote to release it contingent upon him completing his
Are you talking
enforcement order
about
requirements.
for all 3 of those?
Yes.
I guess my question is, do we have any legal right to do that?
Can we do that?
I don't know.
Okay, well, your order of conditions, which I didn't bring down, it is up to you to release. You need to be satisfied. So, let me see if I can read the condition and see whether that, I I think you do. I mean, he's in violation of the enforcement order. I mean, it's a cease and desist. He's, you know, so he can't, you know, really comply with other things until he's, or move ahead with phase 3.
What's been our rule about when somebody doesn't meet the enforcement order? Do they get penalized per day? Have we done that before?
We have not done it. There is a provision that we can issue
We
a
can
fine
do
of $50 a day.
$50 is the maximum we
Yeah.
can do?
See, I think we should do that. I think we should try to follow the letter of the laws as much as possible with this.
If we're not gonna release
I
the
don't know
funds,
what
can we
other
at least
is,
just,
I don't know that we're not gonna, I just,
That's substantially less than, how many days would it take to add up to those funds that we have released? So we're talking about a couple of different orders of magnitude.
right, exactly.
If the intent is that we should be able to cost him $50 a day, then withholding the rest.
Can I just also
Is that-
throw in, I mean, the reason that we haven't gotten to Brandon's request is because at 10 o'clock at night, we've been dealing with the enforcement issues, you know, in the last other meetings. So we haven't been able to even get to the point of being able to consider the request. And I really had hoped we'd have been concluded the enforcement order issue, but we haven't.
Yeah.
I just throw that in as.
And I also agree with Janet that while we may have some discussion about whether we want to release the funds for those that have finished their 2-year sentence, the one that hasn't quite, I don't feel as much under obligation to give him the extra month or two as I would otherwise.
So are you looking up to see whether we have the right to?
Well, I'm just looking for our order conditions, which I'm not coming across quickly, which is always the case when I'm trying to do it.
And when you say it's a cease and desist, it wasn't to cease and desist everything in the whole project, correct? It was just cease and
It was
desist.
just cease and desist infecting the wetland there, yeah. So, but basically, the reason I'm telling you that, and for that reason, is because he wants to get started on that next phase. I've approved the narrative that you gave me the authority to review and work through. So I've approved his sequence of construction narrative. We finally did that last Monday, not this yesterday, but a week ago. He still needs to put up the security escrow for phase 3, and he needs to comply with his enforcement order.
so my only request would just be, if we could at least just determine that he's met the intention of the restoration, and basically that you're accepting the report, and that the bond money would be released once he is in compliance with the enforcement actions. We don't have to come back and request it again. So basically,
So once in compliance.
I just wonder if he can still maybe make that argument, you know, that you can't hold it over to him until
I
he's
see, I
in
wonder about that
compliance.
too.
And I would have no problem voting on that too, because it sounds like you bring up the standard. If we've released 1 year before or have.
Oh, that's typical. That's in our. That's
You know, I could
in
see
the
us doing
order.
that and saying, all right, wait till September. But I'd almost want to keep all of that separate from the enforcement, and just
order,
keep it
yeah.
completely
Unless
separate.
there's
and
something in there, like
just to
Harold
show on
says,
our
yeah.
end, you know, we can.
Be impartial.
Well, yeah, you know, exactly. I mean,
Well, let me read you the typical condition, because I can't find it in his, but let's see, we have it in the standard language that we have. Because I'm certain it's probably very similar. So 1 year after completion of the restoration planting, the owner shall submit a report from a botanist, biologist, wetland scientist, or other individual with qualifications and a minimum of 5 years' experience, and acceptable to the commission, certifying that the planting has been successfully established in compliance with the approved plans, and a written request to the commission asking that half the amount being held in escrow for the restoration be released. When the commission finds the restoration satisfactorily established in compliance with the approved plans, the commission shall release half. So it's pretty much like as you're saying. With 2 years, the same thing. You know, that they have to submit the report and when the commission finds it satisfactorily established. So we have to. Yeah, my only point was I think you can vote to do it, but not to let you wait till you get this, enforcement. But I understand you want to be by the book, that's fine.
Well, yeah, no, I was almost thinking we should address that one separately.
Separate, yeah, we
That's
should,
fine.
we should be
And, no,
finding it.
just to come up with a
Right.
plan to start fine, to let him know, fines will start.
Yeah.
Fines
Right, I
are
mean-
starting,
Should have
and start
started.
putting that in.
Right.
What it doesn't say in there is that unless there are deficient
Yeah.
orders that he's delinquent on.
Well,
Doesn't-
maybe you can
doesn't
make
say
that
it.
standard in your next,
Yeah, maybe
your
it's-
next order
Yeah.
for the next
Yeah, it's a
requirement,
good
because that's
point.
what
If
it
they're in good
And
standing
yeah.
and compliance with,
And there's no precedent for anything like this, because we've never dealt with enforcement orders in the past.
Well, we've just dealt with them, but we haven't done the ticketing part, which is a provision that's in the bylaw that allows you to fine. So I just don't have experience doing that yet, but it's no time like the present, I guess. I don't know if that's what you want to do.
enforcement.
So I can't really give an answer as to why he's not in compliance with the enforcement order, and I'm not even sure, is it just the fact that the restoration plan hasn't been submitted, or is there
Yes.
other items? Okay. And even though I know it seems like the $50 a day and the magnitude may not be motivation, but James and Carol can certainly attest from the Thursday meeting, he's looking to move forward on the project, which is going to be a much more of, it's like, as he would say, it's costing him a lot of money. He's trying to basically complete all this work. So you guys have that assurance is going to be a lot more than $50 a day. I mean, so basically, I'm not sure why I didn't have any, but he basically, and that's part of the other thing I think he wanted to do tonight is formally asked to extend the order of conditions, because we started talking about that
Well,
on Thursday.
yeah.
Because at the moment, he's looking to start the work or continue with crossing in phase 4, as well as start, phase 1, that crossing there, because the order of conditions is due to expire in, September?
Yeah, I didn't bring the orders down.
In the back?
Phase 1 is the one over
Goes out to Century Mill Road.
Century Mill Road, the Century Mill side.
So the work actually in phase 1 is really related to the stormwater detention in the front of the site there on Century Mill Road. Phase 3 is the next major crossing area, and he's good to go on that when he complies with his enforcement order and puts up the escrow money from our end. He's got other steps, such as checking erosion control and all that kind of stuff.
So we still have that hanging over his head.
Yes,
That's what, yeah.
that's what I think he was
So,
saying. The extension to the order of conditions, what I said in the field, and I don't know how many of you were on the commission when we talked about this a while ago, like 2 years ago. So probably none of you were, but except for Lori. Were you, Brian, were you here for that? The meeting where, were you here at the meeting
One
that
of
he
my
exploded?
first meetings
think
was,
Jan-
no.
I don't see when he exploded.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at that
I did
meeting,
read the
one
notes
of the
that
things we
day.
were talking about, and we've talked about it on other projects, we've talked about it on Mark O'Hagan's project over on Sugar Road, is that when we're going to extend an order, we follow the MACC protocol, and considered the things that they've sort of identified that we should be considering again, So is the project in compliance? Is the project, I don't even know if that's one of the standards, but is the, what were some of them? Have there been changes in the regulations that would, change need to address, the way the orders can condition and protecting the resource areas? That's a sort of a major one.
Has the work started?
Has the work started as another basic one that's in there. One of the things we talked about in 2012 was, had the wetland delineation changed? The wetland delineation ANRAD was filed prior to the notice of intent. So it's now been, the order conditions decision in 2007.
So this is his sort of Damocles that he was referring to in last week's meeting. So if we redelineate the wetlands and changed, you have to change all his plans.
Right. So what I said was that there was an area that had been brought up to the commission at the time we did either the notice of intent or the ANRAD, and I can't remember which it was. We had hired a peer review consultant, and I think it might have been during the notice of intent review, and he had felt that the wetland was wetter than it was shown on the plans in a particular area, and I think it was over near this road A crossing where the swale goes out to the detention basin,
Yeah,
sort of in that
I
area.
think it's right in this area here.
Yeah. And so in 2012, we were talking about, well, we should reevaluate it, you know, and we should take a look at that and see if really it is changed. It was, my recollection was that what the commission had said was that it was an emerging wetland, you know, that it looked as though it could be becoming wetter, you know, and so that was, but the ANRAD had already been done, and so they felt like as though, you know, they'd evaluate it at another point if they could or if they needed to. Again, that's all sort of memory. Do you have any recollection of any of that?
Yeah.
And you might not have even, who knows if you were here at the time when they took it or
I
not.
didn't follow it.
Yeah, right. Anyway, there are those standards which I've pulled out again when Mark was before us, you know, on Sugar Road, and he wanted to ask the commission to extend that order of conditions. And I think that there's been other ones that we haven't had any in a while because the Permit Extension Act extended so many permits. That's now kind of not affecting some of the orders that are going to come up, and so this is one of the first ones, you know, that you know, the Permit Extension Act doesn't continue to extend any longer. But again, the ANRAD, the wetland delineation, was done before the order was issued, and the order was issued in 2007. So, you know, you're talking a significant amount of time that nobody's looked at the wetland delineation. And anyway, there may be some other things. Again, the regulations, since 2007, I'm not sure. Stormwater regulations changed. You know, I don't know whether you would know offhand whether you think that the design, because you didn't design it, you know, the crossing, you know, whether that, I mean, he's going to get started on that probably before the order expires, but.
Yeah, I don't think, I'm just looking at it, and again, I haven't been out there, but, you know, as you look at the topo and the grade change through here, like, the area that's we're kind of talking about is this area that flattens out. It's a transitional area where, you know, there could be some fluctuation or difference of opinion a lot of times when you have multiple people look at a wetland line, which is probably what was happening in that area. But it's really kind of down here closer to the basin, not so much in the actual crossing location.
So
I
what I
think
told
that
Andy at the
yeah.
meeting is that I thought that the commission would probably extend the same criteria, and that he ought to just have the wetland delineation reviewed, you know, so that the commission could take another look at it and see what has changed, if anything. But I don't know what his position was on that.
So I think that was kind of presented as, that was your feeling, but obviously Carol couldn't speak on behalf of you guys without weighing in. So I think what Andy's looking to do is kind of pose that question to the commission. In his argument, is basically, you know, he spent significant time getting through his permitting, you know, how long it's taken to get everything through. He's really trying to avoid a situation where if something changes, he's starting over and having to re-permit all this work. So,
Or to bounce him in the next year.
good.
Which is.
Our bylaw
really
order
not
can only be extended for a year. The
Yeah,
Wetlands
but the
Protection Act.
permitting, like if say this wetlands change,
Oh.
and we get involved with having to re-look at the work and, you know, does that wetland change affect what was approved, you know, that could potentially delay things. So-
But it could also be that the commission could amend the order to incorporate the new line if it really didn't affect it.
Correct.
You know, so it's without looking at it, we don't know.
Well, regardless, either way, at this point in time, I would say I would be leaning towards honestly just keeping our options open until he comes into compliance. That, you know, I know he wants to ask the question, would we be willing to, would we not? To, well, get into compliance and then come ask me. You know, and I'll think about it in a deeper manner. I think a lot would hinge on that. The release of escrow funds, honestly, I would be fine releasing. It seems like the right thing to do. It seems like it's been done correctly. But for anything else he's looking for going forward, I mean, it's an interesting discussion for us to have, but until he comes into compliance, I don't even really want to consider a request from him. I don't, you know, what's the
I've just sort of lost track of why we're discussing this.
Because had Andy been here with Alan, he was gonna bring that up.
To
Because
say-
He
you
has
can
the right to
formally request,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can
of
formally
course.
request an extension at a public meeting, or you can, or you can put it in writing and
Oh, so
request
he's gonna
it.
extend it.
He was gonna request it
the
tonight.
extension tonight. Oh, that's.
You have to ask 30 days prior to the expiration of it, so
I see.
that's why he was gonna bring it
Well,
up.
it certainly makes sense if he's in violation of his order of conditions that we're not gonna consider an extension of that, right? I mean, that's reasonable thing. So, as you say, when.
Yeah, it's hard to even
He's no
discuss it
longer
if you're not in
involved.
compliance.
Okay, so it's late, you guys wanna move on from that, we're not
Yeah.
gonna discuss that.
Right.
And then, although we've given some feedback as to opinion that he probably shouldn't, my opinion, again, is that I think you should take a look at the wetlands, so that can maybe be put to bed sooner than later, if it's an issue. You seem to all be happy with the escrow release, so you should take a vote on that.
From my
I was gonna say, I don't know.
understanding, I mean, I hope we're not missing
Maria's not.
something.
I'm comfortable approving the plans. I'm not comfortable releasing the escrow money considering the enforcement order. I mean, we go through this every time.
I just don't know, and I agree that it's a problem, I just don't know that legally, that's my only thing. If it was legal that we withhold it, I would withhold it, but I don't know that we can do that, that we can, that those two things have anything to do with each other, you know what I mean? We deal with we deal with his violation by fining him according to the law, and we deal with the escrow funds according to the law, which,
Okay, so, but not everyone has to agree, so
that's true.
let's take see if you have a vote to pass it or not. Because we're gonna move it along.
Okay, so I guess I would make a motion to release the escrow funds. Like, there are 3 areas, right? The 2 that have had the complete amount of growing season, the 3 years, whatever.
Full release of phase
Full
2.
release of those 2 areas.
So that would be, what did I say, 15,000?
25,000.
With the removal of the silt fence in one of those?
Oh, wait, it was 7,500.
75, and then half of the 10, so it'd be 20.
Yeah, the total, but she was doing it with the
Oh,
one
yeah.
phase.
Sorry,
Right,
yeah.
and then the other one, is that what you do when it's
Yeah.
less than 2 years? Okay,
So 5,000.
so that's the motion I'm making. What does that come out to, Toby?
20.
20.
Okay, so I make a motion that we release the $20,000 escrow funds.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll say.
vote?
Nick?
Nay.
Nick?
Okay. So I think that's it. Do you want to vote to start issuing the fines?
Yes.
Okay,
So I make a motion that we, well, do we do that? When do we start issuing? When does
well,
the
I
fund
think
start?
he should have submitted by July 8th, so it can be retroactive to the date he's, filing.
So I make a motion that.
Well, before,
Go ahead.
I don't know if you want to discuss, and I'm fine with starting the funds because they're only $50. I wonder, I don't want to put any more work on Carol's plate, but if it would be better to instruct Carol to notify them tomorrow saying you're 1 week behind, we haven't received this, you have 48 hours. If not, fines start going back to the original infraction date.
No.
And again, I could see it either way, but like you said, if his person was on vacation for a week.
I'm the only
it's
thing
just
I would
to
add is
say-
that I think we're doing a site visit there tomorrow
Yeah.
because Thursday would be our normal date, but Erica sent out an email looking to move it up. Again, maybe the weather might, if it's lightning or whatever, we wouldn't go, but if I showed up there tomorrow and he handed it in, to me that was, then you wouldn't want to issue it because, then I have it in my hand.
Right.
And then the burden of the paperwork for something I've received seems a
Right.
little bit much.
Right.
That would be my only thing. And the site visit's at 11, so I mean, I'm not gonna probably start getting the paperwork for all these other people who are waiting for their permits until I come back in
I would think
anyway.
if it gives you
Right.
what he needs to be in compliance tomorrow, that he doesn't need to be fined.
Right, that's what I'm just saying, is that I'm
Yeah.
going on a site
Yeah,
visit.
no,
If they
that's fine.
handed it to me then, it would seem a bit much to start retroactively doing the.
Right,
You
right.
pass the word.
It's basically
Yes,
the first meeting after the 8th. Close.
What was he
This is the
told?
first meeting after the 8th.
Yes.
Yes,
What
it
was
is.
he
Yes.
told in the whatever letter it was?
The enforcement order said, it's escrow. Enforcement.
Yeah, and-
That one particular condition said, Century Mill Limited Partnership and/or Andrew Bedeston shall submit a restoration plan to the Bolton Conservation Commission for review and approval for the disturbed area east of Station 21+00 to Station 18.75. Century Mill Limited Partnership and/or Andrew Bedeston shall consult with the Mass Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program prior to designing and submitting the restoration plan. And we did discuss that in the field a couple of times when I was there. The plan shall include restoration of bordering vegetated wetlands, stream, bank, stream channel, and land underwater, adjacent upland resource areas, and endangered species habitat. The plan shall be submitted on or before July 8th, 2014.
And then it says, what does it say about fining? Or it doesn't say that? Do you have to notify them, like typically, what the statute say? You have
Well, it just says failure to comply with this order may constitute grounds for additional legal action. Bolton Wetland Bylaw provides the violator pay any and all fines. Oh, the fine for the violation of this bylaw shall be $300 for each offense each day. Sorry, I was wrong. It used to be 50. That's what it says in here.
So
Each day or any portion thereof of continuing violation shall constitute a separate offense.
I think we should go by the letter of the law.
Yeah.
$300 a day since July 8th.
Okay, and my guess is it's not being handed to me tomorrow, but anyway, maybe miracles will happen.
No, I think we need to be effective, but I think we also need to be fair and appropriate. And if he had an answer to us tomorrow, he's in compliance, and let's move forward.
Okay, so
I
we
don't
just do
expect
the
him to.
process of making a motion, so I just, and then we've had all that discussion.
Okay. I guess the motion that I would like to make is that we fine him from July 7th on for $300 a day.
July 8th.
July 8th on, sorry. For $300 a day, as indicated in the letter you just passed.
The enforcement order.
The enforcement order.
If he doesn't produce it tomorrow, then regardless.
Well, I would just fine him, but he got a letter saying that he was going to be fined $300 a day if he didn't. Yeah, why are we going to do something special for him? Who's he? I really feel like for a case like this, we go by the letter of the law. But you guys can disagree.
I think it should go back
Does
to
anybody want to
July
second it?
8th.
Or?
It should go by what the letter that we gave him.
Okay, would you second it?
I second.
All in favor? Aye. Is that just two of us?
I seconded it.
Majority.
You know, the hope is that if we stick to this enforcement, that it will help us going forward in the future.
Right.
That he will be aware, he'll be more aware of the deadlines and he'll do a better job.
Okay. Or that we're just being unbiased and we're doing what we said we were going to do.
I don't disagree with the fine. I would prefer that it start tomorrow if he doesn't produce it. That's my difference. But my only difference.
Okay. So we have some other work.
Thank you.
All right, can I get you to make a recommendation on PACE 233 Sugar Road, we're requesting a certificate of compliance and release of security escrow. And I would like to make the recommendation that we issue the certificate of compliance and release the security escrow. The only thing I just wanted to say on the security escrow, there was $150 being held for seeding, and it also actually covered the 2 years. We didn't really separate that out, but the seeding doesn't, it's not the same as the plant's gonna die the same way, and it's really in quite lush, and it seems like it's fine. I didn't know whether, in this case where it's not plants per se, you'd be comfortable in issuing the full escrow release.
It's not a shrub.
No. And it's thick and lush, and he showed you some pictures. I have some other pictures, but I don't think I brought them down. I'm not positive that I have them in the file. Let's see. But if you decide you don't want to, again, that's $150. It's just, part of it is that they've sold it to somebody else, so keeping track of that as they move forward is just to be a little bit harder.
That's fine.
Okay, so that's my recommendation. It's under both the bylaw and the act, so you guys, somebody needs to make a motion.
Okay, I make a motion under the Wetlands Protection Bylaw and the Wetland Protection Act and Bolton Wetland Bylaw that we release the escrow fund $150.
No, actually, the full escrow is, sorry, I think it was $3,150. The $3,000 was for the offense. And, yeah, sorry, $3,150 total. $150 was just for the seeding.
So we're releasing it all?
Yep.
That's what you're saying? That we release the entire escrow fund for that?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
You want to sign it first?
That was cute.
No, they noted that.
Yeah, I had to
It was
say
under
that.
Graustein. Yeah.
The other guy, when we were there, Brian over there, he was saying that they had a house that they actually put a plaque on the side of the house. It said that they were in a conservation restricted
Yeah, it
area
was-
and limited on what they could do.
Yeah, you
inside
guys,
the
sometimes you think
garage.
you're really tough, sometimes you're not as tough as somebody others.
It was a plaque. It was inside the garage, the door in the garage in the house. They said, "Yeah, every time you go in, you will see the plaque." It says
Where was this?
Well, Matt works in Tingsboro.
Tingsboro.
Yeah.
And he's the one that suggested the fence, and he's also the one that suggested putting the markers on the
Yeah.
fence post.
He had a good idea with the markers. He said, not just put the fence in perpetuity, but to have it put it upon the owners to maintain the markers in perpetuity.
Yeah, we'll do that in this
Yeah.
draft, when I draft that.
That was funny. There you go.
Take it.
I gotta go to.
Do we have much more business?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. This is what happens when you argue in the beginning of the night. No, I'm kidding, I'm teasing you.
We were on pace for a while.
We had a lot
We didn't
here.
do bad
Yeah,
for,
so
for everything we had. Exactly.
As meetings go throughout the year, this is long.
Yes.
The next one's gonna be long too, because it's gonna be a month away.
More stuff happens in the summer, and we
We
haven't
need less
had,
often.
right, we need less often.
Okay, so, Wagner, we issued the certificate of compliance for, the common driveway. I never checked off the box that said it was complete certificate of compliance. I looked back in the minutes, I didn't have anything that said specifically that it was a complete certificate of compliance, but I had checked off the ongoing condition box, and there was just some ongoing conditions. It was intended that it be a complete certificate of compliance. There's a sale going on that's related to the common driveway on one of the house lots, and the attorneys have asked that we reissue that certificate of compliance. So it's really just administrative. I don't, unless you want to
So we
revoke
just
it.
need
And
to
it's
all
just
sign
under the, yeah, it's just under the Wetlands Protection Act.
That's around it.
And then sort of similar to this one, Northwoods, we issued the certificate of compliance both under the Wetlands Protection Act and under the bylaw, and made reference in the certificate to the book and page number that had been provided to us of the recording for the orders of conditions. So the orders get recorded at the Registry of Deeds, they get a book and page number. One was under the bylaw, one's under the Wetlands Protection Act. When we issued the certificate of compliance, I guess I never noticed it, but the book and page number was the same on each of them that was issued. And when they did the title search, they didn't feel like that had actually released that one. So I'm trying to find in my pile of stuff that one again is sort of administrative.
So while she's doing that, do I make a motion to approve the minutes?
No.
Did you read through the minutes? I read through the minutes. I had no problem with either minutes. Oh,
I do.
wait.
Make motion.
The fourth line of both of them, one of them is incorrect.
Oh, the April 29th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can just give me your comments and I can make that change.
I don't know which one is which.
Oh wait, I don't know what you're talking
Which
about
one
either,
did I
'cause I'm not looking.
Oh, you know what?
They both have the same date.
Oh, you know what?
If they just a cut and paste, I usually just use this
You
as a
cut and paste
template.
the top,
So
yeah.
what's the problem?
Yeah, because it'll be
The
the
dates are
same on both.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just change it.
Okay.
I don't remember which one it is, but, because that would be better.
So I make a motion that we.
Does it say it on the bottom?
Can I do it?
Did the date on the bottom get
Oh,
changed?
which one? No, it's the same.
Oh, I didn't change it on that either.
So can I just?
Yeah, you can still make a motion for the dates that are on
Okay.
here.
Right, right.
So I'll just make that
I make a
change.
motion that we approve the minutes for April 29th, 2014 and May 20th, 2014.
With the provision.
Oh, with the provision.
A change, correct the date.
Correct the date.
Second.
All in favor?
Alright.
So, can I go on with Fife Charter?
Please.
The update is that the work started out there, and a couple of, did I email it to you? Did I tell you in my email anything about, in my packet, about the progress there? No? Okay, so the work started, they commenced, they started to put in the access road, and they started to remove the trees, and last week I went out and found that they had also started to put in the cofferdam, which had not yet been approved, hadn't been approved by the engineers, hadn't been approved by the Office of Dam Safety. They had submitted what was called a water control plan, but it was not determined to be sufficient. And so they'd been advised that it wasn't adequate, and they still went forward and put in the cofferdam. When I got there, there was sediment running into the stream. They hadn't put up erosion controls. So I was upset because they hadn't gotten the approval and they were causing sediment to go downstream. So I required them to put in 3 barriers along the stream, and there's a couple of places where beaver have sort of bermed up and diked up places, so it wasn't going to really continue hopefully too much further than we saw in the field. And I followed up with our engineers and I drafted a letter and I said, I feel as though I need to, formalize this and let them know, that they're not in compliance, because they're not in compliance with our order conditions, regardless of, whether, they didn't get the water control plan approved. There were some other things that they needed to do, orange construction fence along the access road, just some minor things, but I thought it needed to be straightened out now rather than let it continue. And so I sent it out, I drafted it, sent it out to the engineers, and they all thought it was fine, they had nothing else to add. And then I sent it out, and the next morning I received an email back from the contractor saying that, nothing responding to my letter, but that there was a dead tree that he felt was unsafe and was outside the work area, and that the town either needed to take it down or he was going to charge us $2,000 with a change order. So I actually went out today with, I contacted DPW, they don't do large trees like that. They said that I should talk to the tree warden. The tree warden was out maybe working in Western Mass or someplace else, so he recommended somebody else to come out and take a look at it. I didn't see an email from him, although he had said he was going to send it to me. I actually, I'm going to try to check now. But anyway, he thought it would be certainly less than, there were 2 things. First of all, he said he didn't think it was probably going to fall any more than anything else was going to fall. But it is certainly dead. And, there's cavities. And, somebody, and I said, well, somebody could be concerned, that it would fall. I mean, they are working in the area. He thought that he could, if they've got some pipes that are stored kind of in this area that we've defined as this part of this staging area. And in order for him to fell it, they'd have to remove the pipes. So I'm not sure when they're gonna start up work again, because they're not working there now until the water control plan's approved. And so in the meantime, it'd be great to get the tree out if we are gonna have to remove it. I've sent an email to the engineers with photographs, saying, do you think this is within the work area? It's like, it's within like 5 feet of the erosion control, 5 feet of the stockpile of rocks that they've put out, and some logs that they put down from when they did the cutting. So I've just never really worked with the change orders, and I've never worked with this side of the process, and so I'm still trying to figure it out. But if we need to take it out, I just wanted to let you know that I do what I could to try to leave some of it as a standing snag. They've already taken some of the trees out that they had to, and they've saved a few trees that they thought didn't need to come out. But wanted you to be aware of it, and whatever it's going to cost, we have the money within the budget for that project if we have to pay for it, but I'm going to hope to avoid the $2,000 because the contractor who I brought out there today didn't think it would be that much, unless they were bringing in a crane and,
So what's the protocol as far as someone going out there and inspecting the work that's going on? I mean, you just happen to catch them.
Well, yes and no. I mean, we had a pre-construction meeting here in the office with our engineers. Erica was here from planning because we had set up a separate committee who would be able to review any change orders if we did have to issue them, and any bills that come in, and any issues. And so Harold was here, Erica was here, and then a guy, Paul Marinelli, I think was his last name, from the Office of Dam Safety. So we talked about the need for the water control plan at that pre-construction meeting, and we talked about a lot of other things, just meeting minutes that were produced. But then I said, that I would want to do the field visit, which is how I normally do my pre-construction meeting under the order of conditions, to go over where the erosion control is going to be, and staging, and looking at all that kind of stuff in the field. So I did that separately. What the engineers asked for, received, and have now asked for it to be updated is a construction schedule sufficient for them to know when they need to go and inspect the work that they're doing. So from the engineering standpoint, that they should be out there. And whether they would have been going out when the coffer dam was being installed or after it or whatever, I'm not positive, to be honest about that. But yes, I did catch it, but I guess we didn't expect that they were going to be doing that quite yet, because the water control plan hadn't been approved.
Yeah.
So I mean, it should have been within the schedule, that when water control plan's approved, coffer dam will go in, work will proceed, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But so now we're looking for an updated schedule.
Okay.
And they've been stopped since last Thursday was the last time they did any work there. So I don't know, I did email the engineers today, I didn't hear back as to if they've received the water control plan. The last, as of Friday, it had not been approved, and their email to me was that it was unlikely that they'd be able to start on Monday.
So do you go out at regular times? Are you going to make it like part of your schedule to go?
I have been.
Okay.
I've been going out every
So
day.
maybe it should be
pretty
like
much.
Century Mill Estates, where like once a week you go out and you...
Right, well, Century Mill Estates, again, we were doing the once a week, but we also, I don't know if you were here, Mary, when we decided to hire another
I saw the
consultant.
mail.
Yeah, so we've hired somebody during this period when they're doing both the crossings, or at least getting ready to do both the crossings, and I can't be out there every day. But Five Shire is our project. I
Right.
have been going out pretty much every day, except for I didn't go out today because I didn't think they were working again.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, that's not true. I was there today because I took the guy out. I didn't go out yesterday. I was out there today with the guy with the tree. So anyway, I should have a quote from him, and I'll follow that up.
Now, as commission members, do we have a right to inspect?
Yes. Well, first of all, it's conservation land, but yes, you have the right to inspect it. And one of the things I need to find out,
Well, Five Shire, yes.
Yeah.
But even Century Mill.
Oh, yeah, once a notice of intent is filed, the commission has the right to go on the property. As a courtesy, we try to make site visits and arrangements, so people know that we're there. Once an order of conditions issued, you can go out anytime.
Okay, I was thinking about that as I'm walking around heavy equipment today with my dog, thinking, gee, I wonder if the insurance regulations cover just anybody walking around the site at this point. what I did was I made sure that the operator
Right.
knew I was there as soon as possible.
Right.
And in fact, we got along just fine.
Yeah, yeah. You know, on certain sites, they'll have you check in at a trailer and you put a hard hat on and you put on a vest. I mean, depending on how much activity's going on. They aren't
Probably wouldn't have
requiring
been
that
helpful, yeah.
there, but, yeah, I mean, definitely wearing something bright so that somebody can see you is a good idea. No, I mean, I go with Andy in front of me. I told him that the other day, I said, you go in front of me. So, then, I'm also having some trouble with drainage at Bower Springs, and I told Janet about it, and I've asked, yeah, so I called Bill Vaddis, who's a local person who does work sometimes for DPW and does some other just small projects, and he's done work at Bower Springs for us in the past, like grading out the parking lot and things like that. And I didn't hear back from him today either, but I was hoping that he could maybe take a look at it and give me some suggestions. DPW did what they could with limited staff, funds, and sort of authority. You know, they didn't want to do too much because they were concerned, you know, it being wet on one side and being wet on the other, you know, or they were doing work in a wetland. And so I wanted to raise that with you guys if you want to take a look at it. I did want to bring somebody out to give a quote and some suggestions as how they might, you know, suggest we take care of it. But it's getting muddier and muddier, and, you know, as you saw, Ellie's comment is she just thinks people are going to continue to walk
Yes, it's
off
been
the
like
trail.
that. I saw it recently, and I've walked there all the time anyway, and that's been a problem area. It's been really wet over there for a long, long time, and now there's a stream going through it, and the trail is really, really wide and getting wider, so we do need to do something.
Yeah, so I'll give you a proposal when I find one. Get one.
If we were gonna walk it, where would we find the problem?
Okay, so you're parking lot,
Yeah,
and then you start walking towards the ponds, and you know that, you know, the first pond, you go to the left of the first pond, closest
Yes.
to the parking lot, and there's
Yes.
that row of nice white pines
Yes,
that are
yes,
all
yes.
spaced
Yeah.
nicely there. So you walk along that, and just as you begin to turn right to go around the back of the pond,
Yes.
you'll see it. There's an
okay.
area, now there's like some gravel there to
You walk
help
there?
stabilize it, but there's still
Yeah,
a
no, I
stream going
totally
right
know the
across the
spot.
I see.
trail.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can
Suggestions?
see it's really muddy there.
But-
Any suggestions how to handle it?
People keep going, you
It's
know,
not working
encroaching
there.
into the.
So it seems very
Yeah.
obvious.
Yeah.
It's
You
really
see
obvious.
it, yeah.
What changed that caused that? Actually,
I
it's
don't
stable
know.
for a long time.
That's what I just wasn't really sure. I looked to see whether there was any beaver activity that was kind of ponding it up on that, I don't know, what's on one side to see if it was just causing it to be higher water, because I hadn't seen it, the condition it is now.
Yeah, it's always been kind of rough.
It's been
but-
really muddy. I don't know if I've ever seen a stream going through there, but I've been walking there a long time, and it's always been really muddy there.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
I
particularly
myself,
bad now, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I mean, the flow was cutting through, you know, that whole thing, which is, I mean, they did, when they put the stone in there, they kind of made it, defined it a little bit more, the cut through, but it was like that before they put the stone in
It was
too.
a
It was
stream
just
going
going
right
right through, yeah. So anyway, that's Bower Springs. I do have some announcements for you, and Tennessee Gas, there was another one that I had put on, partly at I have bills that I also just want to remind, but I had, Bob had suggested that when he resigned from the commission, that the commission might want to consider taking another vote, just so that there wasn't any conflict of interest that could have been considered about whether we wanted to have them do the survey. And then, since we've also had the presentation, I thought I'd throw it on the agenda and ask you guys if you want to revote your position, you know, because again, if you would be concerned about conflict of interest, or whether you think the position has changed or stands or whatever.
So you probably could, and I talked to Bob about this as well too, and suggesting his lawyer even, that the commission revote,
oh, okay.
just so there would be no impropriety that we were led astray by Bob, or that he unduly influenced it. It kind of separates his whole question with them and, you know, the commission's question with them. I'm more than happy to re-vote on it. My position that really hasn't changed, but I don't know if we want to discuss it or do anything.
Want to make a motion then, Brian?
I make a motion that the Conservation Commission denies Tennessee Gas Pipeline's request to survey conservation land for their proposed new pipeline.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And that, Carol, I didn't email you, but that meeting's coming up. You said you wouldn't be able to go to with the...
Oh, yeah, that was the other part, so.
I should be able to go. What, do you know
August
the date of that? Thank
28th,
you.
so the selectmen met last week, and my understanding is that they would like the commission to come back into their meeting on August 28th to talk about this pipeline and maybe, I'm not sure all the details, Brian attended their meeting, so I'm not
Yeah.
sure if there was more to take a further position or hear whether we had a different opinion on the survey or whether we'd be open, I'm not sure exactly what the discussion points are.
It's hard to tell. Larry used the term inevitable at one point. If it's inevitable, why do we try to say no? Would it be better to work with them? And he kind of corrected himself too. Not that he thought it was inevitable, but it was one of those, is this really going to hurt? Do we really want to just get involved here? My position tends to be, especially dealing with Kinder Morgan, short, obfuscate, slow them down, say no, do everything you can to stop them. But it would be interesting to see what the selectmen, they're kind of formulating their plan now of how they're going to address it and moving forward with Tennessee Gas Pipeline, that it probably couldn't hurt. If they want to see what our position is or why our position is, or if they want to ask us to.
Yeah, I would say at least, Brian, if he can make it, but it would be nice to have more than one person there. And I'm moving my daughter into college that day, and then I was actually gonna take some vacation time, help the kids.
I think
Yeah, you're fine now. Yay!
we are also moving our daughter in that week. I don't know if it's that day. I don't know what we're gonna be back yet.
I'll be
I'm
around.
not sure.
See, I'm going to be gone now. I get home the 27th.
Now, I am comfortable reporting my position as Conservation Commission member, and only as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, and that's been a tough one too.
And I'll express my opinion based on its effect on Conservation Commission jurisdiction.
And I would say, and our land,
Yes.
I mean, which was, if you were around, Jen, I mean, just the value, the property, now a little bit more than some others in terms of its, uniqueness and.
But, as Bob determined for himself, my position, if I had one on the pipeline in general, was not appropriate.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you were to speak to the selectmen, you could say, I'm not speaking as a Conservation Commission member now, but, since they're asking us as a commission to come, it would be good to have some members who would be able to be present. Okay. So I'm just gonna pass around some bills. I have new bills for fiscal 15, and I have a couple of old bills that I encumbered the money under fiscal 14. There were some supplies. I didn't get the bill, the invoice itself in on time, so I encumbered the money. And then there were other purchases that I used the town credit card for, and they never get the statement out early enough for me to get, I did it at the very end of the week, of the fiscal year, so, I mean, it was late too on my end, but anyway. So those are a couple of things there, and then the new bills, one is for the peer review for Condyne, so we've got that money, that's an escrow money. One is also for Fifeshire, the engineering firm, for work they've done up until this point. And then I've got dues and membership for myself for the Mass Society of Municipal Conservation Professionals, which is, I'm on the board of directors for it, but also it's an organization that I'm active with as conservation professionals. And then for all of you, for MACC, it's time to re-up the dues and membership. One thing that's on, when I send it back to them, we have 2 vacancies, and so I don't know whether we want to, put in other names, Max, who has been coming, I don't know where he was tonight, and Karen, she's interested, or leave it a little bit open so that we can have, I guess my point is, are we paying for 7 members? It'd be nice to pay and be done with it, but if we're not gonna have 7 members, register and want to pay. So I put it in for that full amount. Wait a second, that doesn't look right. $519, I did a typo, I did 159. Oh, didn't think that looked right. That's the fee. Bill, you know what, I'll leave it crossed off. Do you want me to check and see if I can do it for just less than the 7 members at this point? Or do you want me to?
Yeah, it would be nice if, if we got additional members and we could pay for them once they came on board.
Yeah.
Can we
We
do
might
that?
pay for.
I don't know, I have to ask MACC. I'd have to read through the letter, and I don't want to do that right now. But if you're okay to sign it, and I'll figure out whether I can do it for less.
Sure.
And if that's, because that's not great up to. But anyway, so those are the bills, and they're stable together, or not stable.
Did we talk about Glen Hill?
I didn't have an asterisk, so I figured we could wait on that.
Okay.
I just wanted to tell you that there's a public program July 23rd about living with black bears in Leominster, and they've sent this out. Here, I'll pass it around. No, you just sign it on the top.
I don't want to live with black bears in my business.
And then the meeting is in Leominster, but it's, living with black bears. And it should be good, it's the Fish and Wildlife that's presenting it. And then there's a couple of hearings coming up at the end of the month with the planning board, and one with the planning board, one with the zoning board. So as I mentioned, actually I think before, Condyne is going to the planning board July 30th at 7:30, and Clinton Savings Bank is going to the zoning board of appeals July 28th at 7. And then I also have just a couple of these books about Chapter 61 programs, and I didn't know if anybody wanted to borrow them and then share with another person, but this is all about preserving your land by enrolling it into the chapter programs, which is the tax programs, you don't have to pay the full value, and how it benefits conservation. So
It's all in and I've seen.
you have, okay, well, if anyone
Yeah, I
wants
can
to.
borrow one.
I have one in the office still,
Okay.
so if you want to read through it and share it.
No, it's okay.
Interesting? Does it interest you? You want to read through it as well? Or wait?
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
okay.
There's a fall conference of MACC.
There usually is, I don't know that, I didn't read their newsletter that just came out, the online newsletter, did you get it?
I skimmed it. It didn't sound like they were announcing lots of courses and credits like they did this spring.
Well, they usually do. There should be one in October, I think. There probably will be. And where they have, it's the same thing every time, every spring, every fall. They
Yeah,
have
well,
the,
it was minimum
the units, the introductory things. and then there's another-
Yeah, I won't do anything with it if you want to come again.
So I'd like to.
Well, we have a new budget, so we have money, but, we did overspend a little bit on that line item last year to cover those costs, but I think we need to do that to be able to say, while we have new members and transitional members, we need to be able to keep that budget line item up, so we can attend those things. Did you guys want to, Karen, did you have any thoughts or questions?
Was any of this comprehensible, or? It must have been a real snoozer.
I got the theme after a while. Yeah, but this is not normal, like going 4-hour marathons.
No, we were getting out at like 9, pretty regularly.
See, our numbers went down, and we lost a couple members, and then summer comes and people go on vacation, so it was really hard to find days where we had a quorum. So we're only meeting once a month in the summer, but when we meet every 2 weeks, which is most of the time, then you get out a lot earlier. This is a lot of stuff for one night.
And there are some issues where this is the first we've heard of it, and we hear the whole story, and so you're hearing the same story we are. And then there are things like Century Mill Development, which has been going on for years and years and years. And they talk about particular parts of it, and I'm sure you didn't have a clue what they were talking
No,
about.
not really.
It's,
So is that typical, this multi-year thing where you guys are administering something that's taking?
That's a very big project. It's a 200-acre site and 100 acres that's being developed, so that's a very big project. That's quite different.
74 houses.
But, an order of conditions is typically only valid for 3 years, and so most projects are done within that period of time, if not sooner than that. And a lot of projects that we end up getting are small projects that might be a septic repair or something, and it's within
Right,
the resource
right.
area. So a lot of what we had, yeah, we had a mix, but, you know, we've had a little bit more new home construction with this spring, it seems like. And then some smaller ones. Oftentimes when the homeowners bring in their own project, it doesn't have the same level of expertise and information that comes in, which makes it a little bit harder too, because then we're trying to draw the information out and educate on the information. And so when the consultant comes in, like the first one, you can say, this is the project, these are the alternatives, this is the delineation, this is what we looked at, you know, boom, 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 boom. He was able to do it in 15 minutes, you know? So some of the homeowner ones take a little bit longer because they've got to work through it.
Some of these guys are the usual suspects. We see Bob Pace, we see Matt, the consultant, on multiple projects. So they know what we're looking for, and so they go a little bit quicker.
It can be very hard to understand at the beginning. Even much later after the beginning.
But one of the things I think, and I think I maybe meant when I talked with you before, but when you go on the site visit, then it really gives you at least a sense of what you're looking at, you know, rather than what you can hear and maybe not see on the plan when you're sitting around the table so much.
Right.
You know, you kind of remember it from that.
And when you're sitting around the table, don't be afraid to ask any question. I mean, I still get nervous when I ask my questions, but I'm always surprised. I get the sense, oh, they didn't know either. Because I tend to think that other people, if they're not saying anything, they understand it all, but we don't.
Right.
So you want to adjourn?
Yes, adjourn.
Okay.